What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to Movie Night. Today we are finally taking a look at 2008's highest grossing film, a member of the billion-dollar grossing club, which as of a few days ago just added another member, Toy Story 3, and also includes Alice in Wonderland. So I guess quality isn't necessarily a requirement to be part of that elite club. In this case it is, because The Dark Knight arguably is the best comic book film ever made, and absolutely one of the best movies in general ever to be put on the big screen, with one of the greatest villains ever to be seen on the big screen. And that pretty much is unanimously agreed upon. Wanted to take a look at this because while it is such a great film, it does have some bits and pieces here that don't necessarily come together, that stop it from being a totally perfect film. There are a few examples of that. I guess you could say that The Godfather 1 and 2 are in that category. Empire Strikes Back. It's difficult to make a movie that is flawlessly put together, but The Dark Knight almost accomplishes it. There are some factors that seemed to affect its potential to really be totally cohesive, which I want to talk about, and just enjoy it as a fan, as someone who loves going to the theater to escape into a fictional world, to just disappear into this universe and experience this story. And movies lately haven't really done that great of a job because they seem to be focusing on just the effects or just the star, and they're not bringing all the pieces to the table. They're not using all the elements of filmmaking that really make it the greatest art form ever invented to date. And unfortunately, movies in 2010 haven't learned the lesson of The Dark Knight. It seems that just the box office numbers are paid attention to, and the reasons behind the profit aren't really analyzed and aren't necessarily brought forward into current movie making. This is definitely an example of movie hope, where our battle is not just necessarily for original movie making, it's for passionate, inspired filmmaking. Again, I'm fine with remakes, reboots, sequels, as long as they are done with care, as long as the person who's making them just wants to give us something new and different, and totally devotes themselves to creating something really special, something memorable. And Christopher Nolan is right up there with James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, Paul Thomas Anderson, Coen brothers, those filmmakers that when we see their names associated with the film that's coming out, we're like, oh, I'm definitely going to check that out. Just recently, there's a great example of that where Darren Aronofsky has directed Black Swan. Seems very interesting, very different. I don't necessarily at this point know if it's truly original, if it's adapted from something, but it seems very inspired and we haven't really seen anything like it before. Those are the things that we're looking for. When we see directors who have a great track record, their resume is filled with movies that have been born out of just a passion for filmmaking. We're looking for people that want to tell great stories and actually care about us, the audience, and actually want to give us some value for our hard-earned cash. So if you've never listened to a movie night before, the basic concept is that it's a poor man's audio commentary, a critic's audio commentary, kind of do-it-yourself, where you at home hopefully have the movie queued up, and I will say, okay, right now I have it paused on the title screen where the Warner Brothers logo is up, and that's roughly 10 seconds into the film, and I'll say, okay, press play, and at that point we'll be synced up. It's not necessarily important that we stay synced up. I'm going to edit this later just to kind of take out some pauses here and there, not too much of it. I kind of want to keep the natural flow. But there is a chance that this commentary might be shorter than the actual film as you're watching because I've done some editing. And the goal here is just really to kind of bring up and explore ideas and thoughts and pick apart the film from a structural point of view, from a filmmaking point of view. And why not just make it a little bit quicker through some editing? Also, this commentary is going to be kind of all over the place, where one scene is going to inspire a discussion and it might carry over through 3 or 4 scenes. And those scenes that I talk through aren't necessarily going to be analyzed. No big deal either. I'm just going with the flow. It's an improvisation commentary, nothing really written down. but definitely a few bullet point thoughts in my head that I definitely want to talk about before the commentary ends. So with that said, hopefully you've seen The Dark Knight. Pretty much anyone who's a movie fan has, given the amount of money that it's made. And that helps because this way you're not trying to understand the story as we're going through this commentary. It's always better to know what's going on, and now with that in your mind you can see it through a new perspective. Hopefully, that's my mission. Hopefully I have something valuable and interesting to say about this. Okay, so right now I have the movie paused on the Warner Brothers logo with the Dark Knight blue and black cinematography tone, something that is kind of borrowed or inspired maybe from Batman Begins and The Matrix, where each of those films kind of have their own color scheme, which seems to accent and complement the just overall theme and the mood of the story. Where in The Matrix you had that sort of green and black feel where it's the computer world. And then Batman Begins had this sort of brownish black feel to it where you get the sense, there's also like a yellowish kind of thing, so you get the sense that Gotham City is sort of rotting away. There's like a little dirt to it. And here comes Bruce Wayne trying to clean everything up. And there's the whole idea of the slums in there, the Narrows, I believe it's called. And those slums are where the soul of Gotham is sort of withering away. Here we have the black and blue, which is classically associated with bruises and fighting. So here, this is Batman being put to the test, battling against his ultimate opponent for the soul of the city, for justice to prevail. There's so many great themes going on in this film. So with that said, let's press play and start our journey. And you're not going to hear anything here in the background because I don't necessarily want to have any reason for this commentary to be taken down, and that probably would be copyright infringement if in the background the entire movie was playing. So the Legendary Pictures logo just went up, and now we have the DC. Poor DC, they don't really have many titles to battle against Marvel in terms of the big screen franchise wars. Love how the bat just goes through the flames, the black and blue flames. And Christopher Nolan style, all of his movies pretty much are just like, okay, we're just going to start them. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight absolutely do that, where it's just like, hey, story's going to start, boom. And I believe Inception does that also. There's no, here's everyone that's starring it. It's very ego-free. Nice start here. We have the Chicago. Chicago is Gotham City, and close up on the building. And we're introduced right away to the Joker. We don't know this is the Joker just yet, but we kind of do because we see the mask. And there was a lot of hype to this film, so everyone obviously knew that that shot right there is like, okay, that guy's going to be the Joker. Maybe not. It's not necessarily important that that fact is hidden. But it starts out with a classic action movie sort of concept in filmmaking, which is just start with an action scene. There's the opening, it's going to grab you by the throat and not let you go from this moment on. And it does it pretty well. We have the setup dialogue here about some guy, the Joker, setting this all up, and everyone's talking about him. In one of my previous commentaries, I talked about a line from Orson Welles where one of the best ways that a character is introduced or sort of becomes a big figure in the audience's mind is that if everyone's talking about him, but we never see him, or just that he's kind of built up, that he's this imposing figure. And we get that here with some exposition that is on the move, so it doesn't really bog us down. The story keeps moving forward. I love how these henchmen are killing each other off per request of the Joker because they'll get a bigger take. And that's just a nice comment on the selfishness of people, which is something that's really addressed here, in that the Joker is sort of preying on that fear that instinctual people will become animals when society's rules break down. And if they're really put to the test, they're going to choose themselves over someone else. And later on we'll see with that cool boat sequence that even though one boat has criminals and convicts and death row inmates on it. Innocent, law-abiding citizens choose not to become their executioners. This opening sequence was pretty exhilarating. I saw this at a midnight show, opening night, and the music, again, by Hans Zimmer, his Batman score from 2005, really has influenced film for the last 5 years. This whole kind of heart-racing dun 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 dun. Just you'll see it in a lot of films now. Just this whole idea about a faster pace kind of. I don't necessarily know the musical terminology for it, but a lot of scores were influenced by Batman Begins, and it continues here, but it's also modified according to the characters, because music is the soul of the movie. Music is sort of like the manifestation of the inner workings of the character. It's the character's music. So when you see the Joker on the screen, when you see Bruce or Batman on the screen, they have their own kind of music cues, their own themes. And in any film, that should be applicable, where the music is ideally set for the characters of that film, the theme of that film, and it's unique to that story. It's the fingerprint of the movie. That's why when you watch movies that kind of borrow themes and music cues from other films, it just doesn't fit. It just feels forced. Love the Joker here, where everything seems to be on time. It's a little bit too perfect. It's very Saw-ish, and that's definitely an influence here, where the Joker seems to be a cooler version of Jigsaw from the Saw films. He's kind of got these booby traps, and he's forcing people to choose themselves over other people. So Saw is another series that also covers the same thematic territory. Love how the Joker just shot that guy without looking, so we get a sense of his character and just how ruthless he is. This mobster bank boss guy that pulled the shotgun out, definitely a cool idea. I like how he's a little bit cocky, but it's like, hey man, you got to keep track of how many bullets you got. And, you know, if these guys are robbing you, you can't be that reckless. You know, just be a little more, little safer with your life. And classic cinematic shot there where we get the close-up of the Joker. That which does not kill us makes us stranger. Great line, and he puts the grenade in his mouth. Well, it looks like a grenade, but it just turns out to be smoke. By not killing him, it makes us have a little bit of sympathy for him. And it's really strange because obviously this guy is horrible. He's a total psychopath. But he doesn't kill certain people, you know, and it kind of, that lets us have a little bit of empathy for him, a little bit of, we want to root for him kind of thing. It's very strange how we root for, quote-unquote, the bad guys in some films like these. And even though, again, he's pretty despicable, in the movie, and just watching it, there's a lot of cheering for him when he's on screen. The first sequence here basically introduces our opponent, and an important notion for just movie making in general is that go back and think about your top 10, top 20 films of all time. I'm going to bet that most of them have memorable villains, memorable opponents. I don't really like using the word villain because it makes it seem kind of cliche, or like really horrible guy that's very one-dimensional. I'm a bad guy, I do horrible things. The best opponents are the ones who think that they're doing the right thing. In their own twisted mind, what they're doing seems like they're doing good from their perspective. So someone like Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, great example of just a human character that over the years she's been twisted, and in her own mind what she's doing is the right thing. But from Jack Nicholson's perspective in that film, she's a monster. Here we have Scarecrow introduced, and he was a loose thread from Batman Begins, where he just kind of got tasered in the face and the horse rode off and we never saw him again. So that was definitely, I know in my mind it was like, okay, what are they going to do with Scarecrow? One of my minor problems with this is that I kind of wish Scarecrow would have been included in the story a little bit more. There's this idea I have where if Scarecrow was in charge of the asylum, and at the end of Begins, he let all of the criminals loose, and I guess Joker would have been one of the people that were locked in the asylum, he might know who the Joker is. It's not necessarily important that we know who the Joker is and how he came to be. It's actually more interesting if we don't know which story he tells is true, whether it's the father who said, "Why so serious?" or if he's the husband who cut his cheeks to match his wife. Whichever story he tells, it's not necessarily important that, oh, it has to be this way or that way. It's just important that you can't really trust them. One of them are probably true, and it's just showing us how twisted he is, how messed up he is. And I'll interrupt that thread with talking about our introduction for Batman here. Loved the sound in this sequence, where in the theater, just listening to it, every time he punched someone, there's just such a power and a thud. There's just such a veracity to his attitude now. And it just shows us how the battle's been going since the last film. And as he kind of cuts into the side of this van, just the look on his face is, I don't know, kind of disturbing. He's like so ferocious. And he gets bumped off of it, but then he just jumps down, crushes the roof of the van, and okay, I guess he caught the Scarecrow. I like the idea of these wannabe Batmen, these vigilantes that he's inspired, and it's kind of showing how his idealism has become twisted, and he really didn't want to create these armchair quarterbacks that kind of just put on the hockey gear. And this guy right here says, "What's the difference between me and you?" And he says, "I'm not wearing a hockey mask," or whatever line. I don't know exactly. The sound's turned off, and I don't have the subtitles on, so I'm just kind of reading lips and going by memory here. Which, by the way, is a really good just little exercise. Watch your favorite movie, or watch any movie without the sound, and see if the story is being conveyed through the just pure visuals. Movies are first a visual medium. And dialogue is the least important part of any movie. Dialogue is just the verbalization of the inner struggle for characters battling for what they want. So whenever characters speak in a movie, they're speaking because they want to get something from each other. And they're using the inner emotional world that they have to manipulate others into giving them what they want. And here we have the bank scene where Batman does his disappearing act. That's a very spoofable part of this movie. Every time he meets someone, and that happened in Batman Begins, every time he's in a scene talking to the commissioner or whoever, and he gets his information or they set up some plan, Gordon or whoever always look away, then they look back, and Batman's gone. He's Houdini. He's got the disappearing act, and I guess that's because he learned the art of the ninja and all that. So it kind of makes sense, but it gets kind of comical also. Now we have Alfred. Love this scene where he goes to the penthouse and the bed is unruffled. It hasn't been slept in. Visually perfect because it tells us everything we need to know. And the look on Alfred's face is also great because it's like, oh, Bruce hasn't slept this night again. He's probably back at the new hideout. And he's, running himself thin. He's pushing too hard. And the worry on Alfred's face is great. So the true test of all filmmaking is, can we visually understand what the characters are thinking? That's what really great acting does and really great filmmaking does. It gets us so synced up with the characters that when there's a close-up of someone and they're not even saying anything, we know what they're thinking. When Alfred looks at the bed, we know what it means for him, we know what it means for Bruce, and it conveys information. Awesome. That's what we want to see in film. Dialogue is not important. If Alfred says, "Oh, Bruce didn't sleep in his bed again because he was out all night fighting crime," you don't need to say that. Just the visuals do it. So very well done. And here we get the thematic core of the movie established. Alfred is Bruce's window character, that person that the main character talks to in order to express how they're feeling about the struggle of the film, the struggle that they're going for. Again, the quick recap of movie structure is basically Act 1 is the introduction of all the horses that are lined up at the gate, right? Act 2 is going to be the race, the struggle to get to the finish line, and Act 3 is the resolution of conflict and the emotional theme, and we find out what happens to everyone. Everyone crosses the finish line. We know how the horses place, and hopefully we are emotionally satisfied as a result. The structure here would be Batman is the main character. His objective is to stop the Joker. And the Joker is going to be established as the overall opponent for the film by the end of Act 1. And the window character that the main character is talking to about his struggle to achieve his objective is Alfred for Bruce Wayne. And the objective here is to stop the Joker, to actually, I guess the objective would be to transfer the responsibility of being the symbol of justice to a human, to Harvey Dent, to someone who would be able to be a symbol without having a mask on. Harvey Dent would be that person. And the way to do that would be to put all the criminals behind bars, and now to stop the Joker. Harvey Dent isn't necessarily a co-main character where you have two people taking action to achieve the same objective. Bruce/Batman is really the one that takes all the action. And a really great film has an opponent who is passionately pursuing their objective. So the Joker is opposite. He doesn't want to see order. He wants to see chaos. And he wants to stop Batman. He wants to really destroy the city. He wants to just destroy society's rules, these frail, invisible codes of conduct that hold society together from falling into just mass chaos. And once that's released, the Joker believes that it'll be like survival of the fittest, animals, kingdom, bloodlust kind of thing going on. And this movie really is sort of approaching this idea of the terrorism, how terrorism can strike fear into a city, into a society, and put us on edge and make us just care about ourselves and not necessarily the greater whole, and how it can break down these social laws that we've kind of put in place and the cohesion and just the order that we have. So this film, it's a comic book movie, but it really has these multiple levels to it. And you can watch it as just a pure comic book enthusiast, just fun, hey, I want to go to the movies and have a good time from that point of view. You can watch it from the filmmaking, great actors, great acting, great cinematography, all these aspects are in there. And then you can watch it for like these metaphors and just the themes of what does it take to be a hero and how do you go beyond fear and have courage. And then this whole thing about this terrorism aspect to it, where the Joker is the symbol. He's basically a terrorist, and it kind of mirrors our society post 9/11. So a lot of it's been written about The Dark Knight and that aspect of it. But it's great that a movie, which is a summer blockbuster, which made over $1 billion, has that in it. And it's just the ambition of the filmmaker or the storyteller to really approach it, because if there's anyone on screen that's human, all stories are dealing with humans and they're watched by humans, we are filled with all of these different facets. We have all these dimensions to us. So why not just incorporate all of them? Why just focus on just the pure genre delivery? If it's just an action movie, okay, we want to see the visceral explosions, the shootouts, car chases, but the characters are so thin they're not explored. Why just deliver on just this one aspect? Why not make it fully three-dimensional and explore, okay, well, how does this action impact the character that's in it, and why is this story happening to them? Every movie is really about a character. It's really about the day that a person's life changes. And if it's based in character, it's really going to connect us more, because we're in a theater and that main person, that main character on the screen struggling to get something is our avatar, is the person through whom we experience the film. Our consciousness really just transfers into them, becomes a part of them, and we have this out-of-body experience where we are now kind of in their skin and basically enjoying the ride through them. And the more dimensional they are, the more we're going to experience it. So look at it as if we were literally avatared. I don't know if that can be used in that way, but let's just say it, avatared into someone's body. And a movie that doesn't have a three-dimensional character developed is sort of like a avatar body that we go into where the senses aren't all working. If you have the senses of touch and taste and sight and hearing, maybe it's just all we have is the sight, and we're kind of missing these other inputs. And if you develop a character with soul and theme and all these kind of backgrounds and perspective on how they view the world and emotions and passion, we are going to be getting that input. We're going to be really feeling it. So The Dark Knight does a really great job of that, with the Joker especially. He's probably, this is an example of a film where the opponent is so great, and obviously Heath Ledger's performance, Oscar winning and tragic because, he died shortly after and he wasn't around to see the just the great cinematic character that he brought to life, and we didn't get to see a career that was really just about to peak and get into his prime. We didn't get to see that actor become who he could have been, winning an Oscar in his late 20s. There was so many years left for him, so that's definitely a loss. But we get to have this performance, and it's so overwhelming that it really takes over the rest of the film and kind of puts the other characters a little bit to the side. So one of the things here, right now I'm at the dinner scene. This is roughly 20 minutes into the film. We have Bruce, Harvey, the new Rachel, not played by Katie Holmes, and we have the Russian ballerina dancer. And here's another thematic moment where Harvey Dent is revealing his thoughts on what it takes to be a hero and what Gotham needs. And this is reflecting Bruce's theme, where he doesn't want to be Batman anymore. Love this scene here too, just visually watching this, no sound. Love the glances. And Rachel looks at Bruce, Bruce looks at Rachel. That glance right there communicates, where she's like, okay, I know your secret, and he's telling you what you need to hear, and this is a way out for you. So just that glance is communicating a lot of information, emotional and just, and that's great filmmaking. One of the best examples of that would be Braveheart, where there's the marriage sequence, and without any words, we see how the king is looking at the son, and the son is looking at the lover behind him, and then the wife is looking at the son and the king and the lover, and all these glances communicate the relationships and the understanding that the king is probably going to have to father his own child if he wants to continue his legacy. Here, at the moment where the gangsters are gathered in the back of the restaurant in a kitchen area, and they're meeting with their money laundering, money holding friend via non-flat screen TV. Bank of Gotham building, and the bank is being raided. And it turns out that the money has been taken away, that there is a leak in the police department that's tied into the mob, and Gordon and Batman are going to have a tougher time because the mob and the bad guys are going to be ahead of them. Nicely done here, and the money is left and Gordon kicks it. Awesome introduction of the Joker. Now, there was the introduction of the Joker with the bank heist, but that was very visceral. It was just very action-oriented. Here we have, finally, the Joker with some dialogue, and he's really going to unveil his beliefs and why he's doing what he's doing, where he's going to unveil what he really believes and what's motivating him. That got the biggest cheer that I've seen in a movie theater in a while, where he puts the pencil in the table and he pops the guy's eye socket through it, pushes his head to the table. Really great introduction. Again, we're cheering for a psychopath because he's such a cool character. It's very much like Hannibal Lecter or Darth Vader. Just think of the best villains ever. Braveheart has a great villain. Recently, I've been watching the FX show Nip Tuck, which just recently wrapped up. I think it was 6 seasons long. And in season 2 and 3, they did a story arc involving a serial killer. He didn't necessarily kill his victims. I guess you'd call him a serial terrorizer, called the Carver. And he was against beauty. He said that beauty was a curse for humanity. and he would find beautiful people and cut their cheeks open, basically creating like a smile effect, a bigger smile. And I didn't see the series when I first watched this film, but after having seen that, I kind of wonder if Christopher Nolan was a little inspired to create the Joker in that way. Now, we all know that obviously the Joker's from the comics, so I believe the Joker had those scars. I'm not 100% versed in the comics, but I believe the Joker was scarred in this way earlier, so if anything, Nip Tuck stole it from the Batman comics. But I think Nip Tuck was the first to like visually on screen do something like this. And this is the tone of The Dark Knight. It's making things a little more real, grittier, darker. And it's not the Cesar Romero Joker where it's just a smile and a extended sort of lipstick job on the cheeks. It's a scar and it's disfigurement, and it's very disturbing and has a history of some emotional turmoil behind it. So just kind of worth mentioning. But just love this sequence here, how he has them all basically held hostage. He's willing to blow himself up. And it's great here how even the opponents, the mobsters, don't get along with each other. Great movie making is all about conflict. It's about drama, the struggle between characters fighting for what they want. So the less characters get along, the better it is for us watching a film, because then everyone wants kind of what they want, they have their own motivations, and they're all not in agreement. When everyone's in agreement, it's basically like one character with a lot of different faces or different voices. So it's cool that someone in that meeting didn't agree with what the Joker's proposing, and there's some conflict going on there. Here we have the good old reliable spinning camera around the characters trick while they're talking. Gordon, Dent, and Batman are on the roof. Oh, and he did his disappearing trick again. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. That's such an easy way out of a scene, but I guess what's the other way to end it? It's like, okay, handshake, yeah. I'll go ahead and get this guy. Go to Japan and go to Tokyo, bring him back, no problem. I guess it's more cinematic if you just, okay, cut away, he's gone. And now he's talking to Morgan Freeman, the James Bond Q character for the Batman universe, with his new invention. And the music here, right, it's just bum 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 bum. It's helping to propel us through the story. And just watching it without the sound, the visuals are propelling us even without that additional sort of motivation, that unconscious little play on us that makes us a little more antsy and gets us in this heightened mood of like, oh, things are moving forward pretty fast. This trick with the music's definitely used in Batman Begins and Inception. It's one of Nolan's go-tos where it's like just kind of get the music to make the audience lean forward a little bit more, get us all interested in what's happening and anticipating the next scene, which is why we hang around at a movie theater or watching a film or a TV show between commercials, is that there's always that anticipation of what's going to happen in the next scene. And now Alfred is also sort of a Morgan Freeman Part 2 character where he helps Bruce get things for his mission. This here we have Dent and Rachel. This is the Chicago Theater on State Street, and we have the billionaire absconds, good use of a word there, with the entire Russian ballet. Alfred's character here, every character in a movie should have an objective. The more developed they are, the better for us, because when they're in a scene, they're going to want something. Now, Alfred's objective should be to be concerned about Bruce in terms of how far he's going with this whole Batman idea. He's putting himself at risk. There's no end in sight if he continues to do everything. There's a saying of, if you teach a person how to fish, you're feeding them for a lifetime, versus if you just give them food now, you're just taking care of them for the moment. So Batman is looking to teach people how to fish. He's looking how to inspire everyone to take action, to create a city of Batmen. Every one of us have the Batman inside of us. We all are courageous, and we just need to tap into it and find it and have the and have the inner strength to follow through on that. So that's Alfred's mission, is to kind of get Bruce out of that dependency mode, because he needs society's problems to have a purpose. Instead of creating everyone to be like him, he's kind of making everyone weak. So Alfred should be fighting for that more, where, yeah, the idea of Batman is indestructible, but Bruce Wayne is still just a man, and he bruises and he hurts, and he can't go on forever like this. Alfred should be pursuing that in every scene, and if he isn't, then it's just a lack of development in terms of that character. It would be nice if Alfred was providing more opposition. He is the window character, so he listens to Bruce's emotional state regarding what's going on through the conflict. But he should also be a source of struggle with Bruce. Again, no one should be in total agreement all the time. If Alfred cares about Bruce, then if you really care about someone, that's when you argue with them. We don't argue with strangers because we don't know them. We don't have an emotional investment with Johnny, whoever I just met. So everyone should be providing conflict. Just finished watching the scene where the Joker takes out that bad guy boss that put the price on his head. And it really great how he was dragged in the body bag and he turned out to be alive, and he killed him off, and he told that story about his father. So we get emotionally invested, we get to know this opponent, and we know his beliefs. Why he's doing what he's doing is so important. The more characters can state that, the more they can reveal their passions and beliefs and motivations, the more we will be attached to them. When we know what a person cares about, we become caring about them. We become emotionally invested. That's why this film is taking the time to have the Joker reveal those things. And Bruce kind of did it a little bit, where he says that he's looking to kind of make Harvey Dent the human version of Batman, the White Knight, as he calls him. And that's kind of his objective right now. He wants to help transfer this power so that Batman can just fade away and not be needed anymore. And then there's also the side story with the romance with Rachel. Quickly to talk about Rachel, I am going to say that I liked Katie Holmes a little bit better playing that character. I think that back in 2005, the whole Tom Cruise jumping on the couch and her marrying him was a big distraction for really a pretty solid performance. Her character in Batman Begins had some passion, knew what she wanted, was always arguing with Bruce, had a point of view. I think she did a really great job. And if she would have been able to carry the role through here, it would have had a stronger emotional impact. It actually might have also had a unintentional comedic impact where the audience might have cheered because she gets killed off here, which was such a huge shock. And I'll talk about that when that scene gets here, but that was a very tense moment. Like the introduction here of the sonar, the sort of digital cell phone sonar that can map the area. That's very much like the Chekhov quote of, if you introduce a gun in the first act of the movie, it has to go off by the third. So we're introduced to a small version of this technology, and by the end, we get the citywide supercomputer version, which that's one of the few problems with the movie. The whole motivation for Morgan Freeman's character, where he's like, I can't be a part of this. After you do this, I'm going to resign. And you're like, okay, where did that come from? And that actually feeling in us, or that reaction in us, is due to a lack of character development for the Morgan Freeman character, because we never hear his perspective during this film until that scene comes up. He's just very much in agreement, very just helpful to Bruce for the beginning portion. But by the end there, he's like, oh, now I'm going to have a perspective. Now I'm going to be in conflict with you. From the beginning, Morgan Freeman, the first scene that he's in with Bruce should be about, hey, I'm tired of making these gadgets for you. I'm tired of you risking your life. I want you to stop doing this. There should be something along those lines going on so that when it comes to that deciding moment of, I'm going to resign, we're not friends anymore, this technology is too powerful, that has an emotional impact. We're like, oh, that would make sense. So a little bit of lack of development there kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like what needs to happen, but it's not necessarily set up. So awesome, this moment here where Batman jumps off the building in Tokyo and is flying around and breaks through the glass here, does the barrel roll and gets up and just starts kicking ass. So awesome, great sequence, and just music is accompanying it perfectly, underscoring it so well. Very visceral, just again, great movie making. It's got the action sequences, delivers on the genre, but it's also got the characterization going on for the most part. I know I'm kind of picking apart the quote-unquote minor characters, but again, no character is a small character. Every character can't be the main character, right? In that the camera really just follows our main character for most of the film, and then we get to see the opponent and the other characters when it's relatable to the main character's objective and the theme. But from the perspective of every character in the movie, they think they're the main character. There's the great scene in this Stars show called Party Down, where the one actress, someone asked her, well, what kind of character did you play? And she's like, oh, I played this struggling actress who's trying to make her dreams come true. And then her friend asked her, well, what was the name of the character? Oh, hooker number one. Oh, you played a hooker. No, I played this character who has a dream from childhood to be an actress, and she's just trying to make it come true. So from her perspective, she's a three-dimensional character with a backstory and a history, and she doesn't look at herself as a hooker. So, I mean, it's a great comedy, but it's a nice lesson for screenwriting and filmmaking. It's that every character is the main character of their own movie, but we're just watching it from one perspective. And here it's through the eyes of Bruce Wayne. Batman brings the accountant, the mob accountant, back to Gotham. Really great sequence. A lot of fun. And we are in minute number 37 of the film. So classically, a film is about 120 minutes, 2 hours. So this is 2.5 hours. It kind of has an extended first act, but it has a lot of pieces that it's introducing. It's introducing a lot of horses to the starting gate. And the Joker hasn't necessarily become the objective for Batman just yet. It's being set up that the objective right now is Batman trying to help Harvey Dent build this case against the mob to really clean the streets of all major criminals so that some order and peace can start to kind of occur. And that's what we would call an Act 1 objective, where when you introduce any kind of story, when we get into the world of a movie, the characters are already in motion doing something. No one is waiting around for a camera to start. One of my favorite examples would be Die Hard, where the first 30 minutes of that film is basically the story of a guy trying to reconcile with his wife. It's a drama about a couple that were separated because of whatever pressures of marriage and career, and now they're trying to, over Christmas, find a way to get back together. And then all of a sudden it becomes an action movie. But the first 30 minutes, the objective would be John McClane, get back together with my wife. Here we have Batman help Harvey Dent build a case against the mob. And the Joker is going to start making some problems. So while that's kind of going to be going on throughout the movie, it's really going to be, okay, now we have to stop the Joker. So the Joker starts doing his booby traps and stuff. Since I'm mentioning Die Hard, there's also a Die Hard 3-ish sort of thing going on here, where in that film there's the Simon Says aspect, where Simon makes a phone call to John McClane. He says, okay, you have to get to this location or else this thing's going to blow up. So there's the same similar kind of tension, dramatic tension device. We have the Saw influencing the Joker here. And then there's also a little Simon Says Die Hard 3 aspect to it. That's a setup there. I'm in the courthouse moment where the judge opened up the docket and the Joker card was there. There's a little foreshadowing, a setup of the Joker going to attack the judge. That her Joker card's been pulled and she's not going to be around much longer. And the dude from Lost is the mayor of Gotham City here. About 41 minutes into the film, there have probably been about 6 sequences here. And just the quick idea about sequences is that there's usually a decision from the main character's point of view that's made in terms of pursuing an objective that kicks off a series of scenes that are related to that decision. Or there's an event, something out of the control of the main character, usually created by the opponent, which creates a number of scenes related to that event. Basically, you have the main character making decisions or the opponent making decisions. So from the point of view of the main character, the opponent's decisions are events, if that makes sense. Here's a great example. We have the wannabe Batman guy hung outside the building, and it crashes into the glass, and Dent has his meeting with Gordon interrupted. There's the card pinned to the chest of the wannabe Batman, the vigilante guy, and that's going to kick off a series of scenes now. The Joker has become a dangerous force, and he's really announcing himself at this point to Batman. This is the first time that the Joker becomes the opponent for Batman. Up until this point, the Joker's stolen money, and he's cut a deal with the mob, and he's taken out one of their members. So this is the first moment when the Joker now becomes a force against Batman. He's going to put him to the test. Batman so far has just been dealing with the mob accountant. He achieved that objective of bringing him in so that there would be a case against the mob. And now the Act 2 of the movie is going to start, where Batman is going to go head-to-head against the Joker. And that's really the struggle that we're going to watch until the resolution. The mob accountant in that thread will continue to go forward, but it was really established in Act 1. And it kept us sort of glued and moving forward while all these other pieces were set in motion. I mean, the mayor of the city was just introduced 40 minutes into the film, and usually any kind of major characters shouldn't be introduced after the first act, but since this is a longer movie, it's a bigger structure in terms of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and we have basically a 40-minute Act 1. And the mayor necessarily isn't a huge character here, but he's part of the overall character structure. Loved that YouTube video-ish recorded webcam thing from the Joker where it shows how he basically tortured and killed that vigilante wannabe Batman. Very disturbing. The point where he says, "Look at me," and just like this demonic, inhuman, possessed voice comes out. Really scary. Really reveals this just warped soul. Very well done. And love how it's turned around and he's basically calling out Batman now. He's basically going to keep reigning terror until Batman reveals who he is. Very well done. That is set in motion. That's a setup. It's a foreshadowing. I like to just call it a setup. Basically, the way that films keep us glued scene to scene is that a scene will end with a setup and begin with a payoff. So that you're like, okay, the Joker has set up that he wants Batman to reveal himself, and if he doesn't, he's going to kill more people. So now you're like, okay, well, what's going to happen in the next scene? When is that going to get paid off? Cut to the fundraiser, which was set up a few scenes before when they were having the dinner, and now we're getting paid off. Okay, well, when's that fundraiser going to happen? It's going to happen right here. Now we're looking for a new setup to occur, and it's going to keep furthering. So we're getting this whole introduce something and pay it off later. Ask a question, give us the answer sort of thing. Here's a moment for theme. The overall kind of objective of this moment is, okay, here's Harvey Dent. We're going to get him some money for his campaign, and he'll never need to raise money again. And now we get the emotional relationship between Bruce and Rachel. We have the balcony scene here, and he's like, okay, I'm going to stop being Batman so we can be together. So that's kind of like this little minor objective that he has, a personal objective. Maybe it's like the Bruce Wayne objective, and then there's the Batman objective, since it's two people, same person kind of thing, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing going on. But that's an interesting dynamic, and that causes some good tension nice emotional tension. Every character should have this kind of inner world going on. And here we have some Inception foreshadowing, if you will. We have a setup of a payoff that is going to come in terms of filmmaking, in terms of a filmmaker. Christopher Nolan sort of testing out his parallel editing filmmaking skills that would really be steroided up for Inception, where we have basically 3 sort of levels, if you will, going on here. We've got the judge, the commissioner, and then the fundraiser. And the cutting back and forth. And this is very much like the multiple levels in Inception where, okay, as the van is falling, they're in the hotel, and as they're in the hotel, they're in the snow-filled hideout mountain range. So all those levels in Inception are being parallel edited, and really each one is like, okay, cut away right now when it's a setup, and then cut back when it's a payoff, and they each keep us asking questions every time it's cut away, and every time we go back, we're getting the answers. Here we have Dent with Rachel. We have the police officer, Gordon, with the commissioner. And then we have just some other cops with the judge getting into the car. And the music is also kind of very much helping us maintain this tension and like, okay, we're cutting back and forth. The Joker's going to kill you. We need to get you all protected. There's this also a notion of, well, can you trust these cops and what's going to happen? And it's all going to crescendo. This is basically like this sort of mini climax here where it's going to crescendo with the Joker arriving at the party. And I know being in the audience for this was like, okay, the more we can see the Joker, the better. And every time he's on screen, the test for the filmmaking or the writing is that, okay, every time he's on screen, it's got to be better than the scene he was previously in. And it can't just be sort of the same note or the same level in terms of what he's bringing. Best example of, let's say, this kind of Joker effect when we're watching it would be Hannibal Lecter in the first Hannibal movie, Silence of the Lambs, where throughout the film, there's 4 or 5 scenes, they're about 5 minutes each, when he's talking to Clarice, to Jodie Foster, and then the big kind of payoff sequence, the money shot Hannibal Lecter sequence would be when he escapes, and that's about 20 minutes. Really cool. That movie's about 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that, and he's probably on screen for about 30 minutes, roughly. Now, if you go to Hannibal, the sequel, he's on screen for most of the movie, and you kind of lose the power of the character. Or they just couldn't figure out a way to take him someplace new, different, but maintain that great mystery that made him so engaging. It's kind of like Lost, where the more you answer the questions, the sort of more disappointing it gets. We like the mystery. We like to kind of work the imagination ourselves and be like, oh, it could be this, it could be this. Why is this person like this? The more you start explaining, the fantasy becomes a reality, and it could be disappointing unless it's very well thought out, very inspired. But here the Joker continues to be who he is. We're definitely not tired of him. Love how he interacts with everyone. And just, it's funny. You remind me of my father. Nicely done. Very scary character. Again, performance is amazing. And Rachel steps up to the plate here to confront him. And just these little nuanced touches with the licking on the side. It's like he is unconsciously always aware of those scars. I like how he combs his hair. Very nicely done. And we're kind of wondering, okay, the payoff of the previous scene was that Bruce goes into his panic room, or his little mini Bat cave area, so he can get his costume on. And we're like, okay, when is Batman going to appear to kind of save the day here? And this sequence was really all kicked off by the Joker hanging that body. And within it is this multiple cutting of the judge gets blown up in the car, and then the commissioner drinks the acid whiskey. And now we're here where the Joker is at the party. This is going to be the end of the sequence. Blu-rays and DVDs tend to categorize the movies, tend to organize their chapters according to the beats and sequences. It's a very instinctive kind of way. I don't necessarily know if they're doing it consciously, like, okay, here is when the main character decides a new way to pursue the objective, and these resulting scenes are part of this sequence that is born of that. Who knows if that's the thought? It's probably more of an unconscious thing, that it just seems like the natural flow. It's like chapters in a well-organized novel. It just kind of makes sense. It just sort of fits. So this whole sequence probably starts with that body hitting the window, and from that moment on, it all fits together with that. Poor choice of words, and he lets her go. See, like, when that happens, it's just like anything can happen in this movie. That's what's so exhilarating about watching this, especially the first time, obviously, where the Joker isn't a cliche character. This movie's really trying to fight hard against cliche filmmaking. Even though right there, I don't necessarily know if Batman's cape would have saved them from breaking their legs on the taxi that they crashed into. It's a little bit too predictable, but let's give this film some credit for avoiding cliches most of the time. But when the Joker lets her slide down the building like that, there's just this thought in our mind of like, okay, this guy is totally unpredictable, and really no character is safe here. And as we're going to see in a few moments, when Gordon gets shot and then later on Rachel gets blown up, we realize that, wow, anyone can die in this film. And I just remember sitting in the theater like, this is awesome, because from this moment on, I don't really know what's going to happen. It's great. Now here we're back to another thematic scene with Alfred. Notice, every time Alfred is on screen, he's sort of lecturing Bruce. He's like, here's what you got to do. This is something like you've never seen. I think this is the scene where he's going to be telling the story about some people just want to watch the world burn. And he basically tells him, okay, well, in order to defeat this kind of person, this kind of monster, you might have to become even a bigger monster. Is it someplace you want to go? This is a battle that you might not be able to win. And I kind of wish the movie would have went a little bit further than that. I kind of wish it would have went in that direction. I know that Batman sort of has to obey the long comic book history, and he can't do things that he hasn't done before in the past in terms of what's already been established. Like, if he would have become as crazy as the Joker, would we have forgiven it? But it's kind of required here. You know, there's these moments when he's like, no, I can't be like you. I'm not going to do this. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I think you kind of might have to. You know, what would that open up inside of him? How far would that take him? And let's talk about the comparison with Tim Burton's Batman, the first Batman in 1989, where the Joker was the one that killed Bruce's family. That's kind of how they tied it in there. And there's comparisons to Jack Nicholson's Joker versus this one, and which one's better. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion in that respect. I mean, I think it's 20 years, so it's different generation, different climate in the world, and both work for the culture and times that they were born into, that they were created into. That Joker wouldn't necessarily work in this climate, and this Joker would be too crazy and hardcore. I mean, another movie that seems to influence the Joker here would be Seven, David Fincher's masterpiece from 1994. And that character, actually, the character of John Doe, could also be seen as a precursor to Jigsaw. So really, John Doe could be influencing this film as well. And again, I don't know the Batman comics, so possibly the Joker of the graphic novels could possibly be influencing John Doe. But that film in 1994 was really a big shock. And now, 15, 16 years later, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but just the grisliness of those kills and just the tortured world of that character played by Kevin Spacey was so different. And it really influenced a whole kind of griminess and just a whole nother kind of attitude to future filmmaking from that point on. This Joker is very much tied to that kind of a John Doe character, and this version of the Joker in a 1989 movie would definitely have been a little bit way over the top and too extreme. 8 minutes into the film, and there is this sort of side little story conflict introduced where this guy at the Wayne Company discovers that all of the things that Batman uses are coming from Wayne Enterprises. And he approaches Morgan Freeman with, like, I want this much money, and I'm going to reveal it to the press. And then Morgan Freeman kind of shoots back. It would be nice, though, if Morgan had more of just a perspective attitude. Again, this kind of ties in. What is his objective? There should be probably a follow-up scene where he confronts Bruce regarding this, maybe brings it up. He kind of seems to resolve it here in this moment, but I like how this character, this guy is pretty well developed. He's got this whole thing of, like, he doesn't feel that Bruce is respecting his job, and you can kind of tell. I mean, that character's only on screen maybe 3 or 4 times during the entire film. But there's the sense that he doesn't like Bruce because he's the silver spoon kid who's gotten everything handed to him. And there's that moment when he's in the boardroom meeting and Bruce is sleeping, and this character just kind of squints his eyes and he's like, I wish I was in that position because I'd take this job seriously and I could do something for myself. And you kind of get this notion of who this person is. And then when he brings these facts up to Morgan Freeman, he really thinks that it's going to make a big difference and that he's going to bring down Bruce and he's going to be promoted. So this little character has this great three-dimensional world developed where he has a personality, a perspective, and he has this objective. He wants to achieve this for himself. Very well done, and it just proves that when that detail and effort is put into a character, it really pays off because they're motivated and they're doing what they need to do in order to further their personal objectives. Everyone wants something. No one is waiting around for anything to happen to them. They're always taking charge. The funeral scene here, where the police officers are marching down LaSalle Avenue here in Chicago, and there was a great little shot here, very well done, of the one cop, I think her name is Ramirez, who's on the Joker's payroll, or, he's controlling her, where she's walking alongside the police, and she looks up at the windows. And on a second and third viewing, who am I kidding? This is like my 15th viewing. It reveals that she knows what's going to happen. That she's looking up because it's like, okay, well, there's where the shot's going to come from. Very well done. It's that every character has that inner world going on. They all have their perspective. So for her, she would know what's going on in terms of the Joker's plans. So when we see that little shot, for us, it doesn't necessarily mean anything right away. We don't catch it because we don't know what's going to happen. But now looking back, she was tied in, and that off-screen information comes through right there where the Joker probably told her. And it's a very nice shot that she's looking up like that. Very well done. So there's some missed opportunities here in terms of motivation coming up in just a second, but that's an example of just very detailed filmmaking. Very well done. Now this is a new beaten sequence about to start here, when the Joker opens fire and Gordon gets hit, and then Harvey Dent takes the shooter or one of the Joker's men and starts torturing him. This is a sequence that starts with that shot. There's the Joker there. Here we go. Boom. So here's an event. The Joker shoots Gordon. It's out of the control of Bruce Wayne / Batman. And now it's going to kick off a series of scenes that are born because of it. Here's a new sequence. And the previous sequence was not necessarily objective related. There was no pursuit of here's what I want to get. But it was very much like a Bruce Wayne kind of sequence. Here he's working with Alfred. He's going to go to this funeral march. And now these scenes are going to occur because of this beaten sequence. Now here's the point for me where it becomes obvious that this movie was supposed to be 2 films. It was 2 screenplays or a bigger idea, and because I guess, I don't know who, the producers, the studio, maybe Nolan, had different ideas for the 3rd film, they decided that Harvey Dent wouldn't be a big enough draw, maybe, because he's being introduced in this 2nd movie. To have him carry over into a 3rd movie might seem a little bit boring for the audience, so they might not want to go and pay the big dollars on IMAX to see it. Again, if the Scarecrow was the main villain of this film, we'd probably be like, oh, we kind of saw him in the first movie enough. That can be argued, though. And we don't really want to watch him again. But it's like, oh, the Joker, that's interesting. So now when the bad guy's announced for the 3rd film, that's going to be the big draw. It's going to be like, okay, here's what we're talking about. And we are going to want to see it because of that. Here we have the scenes happening now. The bat signal's turned off, and Gordon's family are informed of the news, and then Batman is going to go to the club. Love how he walks through the club and he's just beating everyone down. Just ferociousness. Awesome. It's all set off by the shooting. Series of scenes related to that event. Now, I guess this would technically be a decision. We've had about 3 scenes from that shooting. And Batman has now made a decision to go see the crime boss, and there's going to be 2 or 3 scenes with the crime boss. So technically that could be like a new beat in sequence. But meanwhile, Harvey now is kind of making his own decision. That he's not the main character, so a film can't be analyzed in terms of beat and sequence from every single character's perspective. It can only be through the main characters, because if we did it for everybody's perspective, it would just be a jumbled mess. So in terms of Batman, I would say that the event is the shooting. There's a couple scenes that create like a little sequence, and then he makes a decision. Okay, I'm going to go after the crime boss guy. Now this, again, here, I'm about an hour into the film. Harvey Dent is in the warehouse with the schizophrenic guy who works for the Joker. And all of a sudden he's snapped. Harvey Dent is like, "No, I'm crazy, I'm unstable, I'll do whatever it takes to rid Gotham of this crime." Love how Batman dropped him. That was pretty fierce. And that's another just little moment here where you're like, oh, okay, Batman's really going to go to places that I didn't expect. This movie's making the characters do things that we can't necessarily predict. And this is just a little hint that Batman should keep going to this level. We need him to be lost. We need him to almost become like the Joker. We need him to have that moment when, like Luke in Return of the Jedi, I always reference this moment, but it's so powerful and it's a great visual example where, as Luke's about to strike down Vader, he looks at his mechanical hand and he's like, I'm already 1 part Darth Vader here. You know, I'm 5% robot, 5% mechanical like my father. If I strike him down, I'm going to become 100% like him. So there should have been a moment here where the Dark Knight, Batman, is going to earn his name. He's just about to take the Joker out. He's about to kill him. He's about to do the same thing that the Joker's been doing to everybody else. And he chooses the light side, the good side. He redeems himself a little. But it should be a darker journey. It should be very Michael Corleone Godfather 2 and Godfather 1, where really the beginning of The Godfather, that whole trilogy is really about a person's downfall, a person's deterioration in terms of being a good man into being a ruthless, criminal, evil kind of guy. So this should be very much just the latter half of Godfather and Godfather 2, where Batman does his Michael Corleone and becomes like the person he tried to avoid becoming his whole life. Michael Corleone never wanted to be like his father, but in order to protect his family, he's forced to do things that he never thought he'd be able to do. And when he looks at himself at the end of the first movie and his wife's outside the door and it closes, and in the second film when he's taken out his own brother turned against him, that's story of a guy who just has gone to a dark place. And this film should have taken Batman a little bit further. It should have pushed him. The Joker is there to test that darkness, to test Batman and see how far he can go. Him dropping the mobster off the fire escape is a first little test. It should keep going there. But unfortunately, it kind of goes to Harvey Dent. He's the one that starts going dark. And I know that's the Joker's mission, right? It's that, okay, I want to take the White Knight, and I wanted to show you that he was fallible and that he wasn't perfect and that he could be destroyed. And I'll hope if you push a person far enough and take away what they care about and what they love, that they will turn to that dark side and they will become evil. I could see that. But these movies are really Bruce Wayne's journey. Batman Begins, what it was, for me, so great about that was that it was an origin story. And it's, arguable in terms of how great that film is. It's either kind of like you love it or hate it. I'm in the love it camp for that one. I like how they made Bruce a person. They take us through his origin. And all origin stories are always kind of fun to watch. It's like growing up with the person. We get to see them develop into this character. So it's always a fun trip. But just to see how he goes through the training and just his beliefs, why he's doing it, it works really well. And here, it should continue the journey of someone who was hopeful in the first film and now is just being pushed to how far do you want to take your journey? How far do you want to take your belief? And so now it's okay, we have to disassemble everything. We're burning everything. We're shutting everything down. Commissioner Gordon got killed, even though he's in on it with him. And it always seems so extreme. And quickly, let's just talk about this new hideout. Sequels always have to one-up what has been in the original or in the first movie, so we can't have the same locations. We have to have that fresh feeling. And this underground, just a huge lighted ceiling, very cool looking, very cinematic. So let's give credit to the set designers and the imagination here of the filmmakers. It definitely looks good. I don't know how practical it is. It's kind of dingy. I mean, he's a billionaire, right? Get an interior designer, but I mean, it definitely looks cool. It has a very 2001-ish kind of feel. Kind of like towards the end of 2001 with the lighted room. And it's kind of a moment when Bruce is now okay, I'm gonna give in to the Joker's demands because I want to stop people from dying, and I have to go reveal who I am. And the White Knight is going to take his place and say that he's Batman. This should deal with Bruce's character a little more. Let's have some more theme. We just had a moment now with Alfred where Bruce is talking about, okay, it's time to give it up. Time to bring it to an end because the Joker's won. He's too ruthless and Bruce doesn't want to go there, but he should force himself to go there. He should be obsessed with this. And let's explore that a little bit more. This movie is shifting the theme to Harvey Dent right here instead of Bruce. Yes, he's the savior, and yes, the Joker's trying to destroy Harvey Dent, but it's really Bruce's story. And this, you could see it right here in that sequence where we start following Harvey a little bit more in terms of what he's doing as a result of the shooting, and we don't truly see the effect on Bruce. This needs to be more of Bruce's turmoil, his journey. Harvey Dent's character is pretty thin here in terms of what's made him the way he is. Why is he so idealistic? What is his backstory? We don't need to get a whole 20-minute exposition on, okay, here's what happened when I was little and I wanted to become a lawyer and bring justice to the world. But there has to be some kind of, give us a little bit of your beliefs, Harvey Dent. Just the same way the Joker reveals through his own way, through conflict, through fighting with people, by using words, just the messed up life that he's had. Who knows if any of those stories he's telling are true, but his actions and the things he says let us know what he believes, how he got formed, possibly, and it just connects us a little bit more to him. So, do we need to have the story of here's how my dog died and now I'm the person I am because of that event? from Harvey Dent? Kind of, sort of. It doesn't necessarily need to be like, sit down and hear a story time. It can just be when he's fighting with the mayor, with Gordon, with Rachel, with Bruce. Again, everyone should be everyone's opponent, just so it's dynamic and it is conflict. No one's necessarily agreeing because everyone wants whatever they want. It would help us to understand why Harvey has this extreme change in terms of the way he does things. Now, there was that cool introduction where he wasn't afraid of the gun being shot at him and he grabbed the gun and took it apart. And we get the sense that, oh, okay, he's got some training, and we get the sense that, okay, he can kind of handle himself. But we don't necessarily get that connection of where he got this heads versus tails thing, what his belief in fate is regarding that, and what would set him off. Why does he snap so easily? And just when he was holding the gun to that cop's head, that Joker's henchman guy in the warehouse, and he flips the coin, and it's like, I mean, I guess he would have shot him if it came up, the wrong way, but I kind of didn't buy him really switching so fast. There has to be a couple more scenes, and there has to be just a rewrite. Every scene that he's in up to that point should be dealing with Harvey's motivations, his beliefs, and just kind of, I need to believe that he switches so easily. It's a little bit too quick. And this scene here, it's like I'm watching the moment when the fire truck is burning on the street and they're going to go below. Now, if you notice, they didn't necessarily have to go underground. They could have went into the oncoming traffic lane, which is wide open, and no problem. They're the cops, so everyone's going to stop for them. So it's a little bit too forced in terms of like, oh, we have to go down this way. It's a great action sequence, and this is a new sequence here from the moment that Harvey gets arrested. This is the sequence of, transferring Harvey, and now the Joker's going to try to blow things up, and really well done, awesomely filmed, great sequence, delivers on genre, great filmmaking. Haven't really seen this before in a movie. The locations are great. So, again, really well done. Makes sense for the most part. The Joker is continuing to be a menacing force. He shot that innocent guy and the SWAT car in the river over there. Just really great. Fun to watch. The sound effects here are amazing. I believe that there is no score at this point. It's just all the natural sounds of the environment. It's just bullets and gears grinding and tires squealing and engines roaring. And that's something that is also done in Inception, the moment when they go into the first level of the dream with the van, I believe, and the train shows up on the street and like the subconscious with the machine guns shows up. That whole car chase sequence shootout is scoreless. It's just all the natural sounds. And it's very impactful that way. I really like movies that just kind of let the action become the soundtrack. The bazooka launcher, the missiles being shot over here. Cars exploding, really well done. Joker just pulling everything out of his arsenal. And Batman shows up. He's got the Batmobile. He drives up under the garbage truck. Haven't seen that before in a movie. Very nice imagination. In the theater watching this, there's the driver of the car who has his mask on or whatever. He's geared up, so we don't know who he is. And that's an obvious sign of like, okay, that's going to be a surprise character. But the idea that Gordon was still alive, I would say for me was a surprise. So it really worked well. And is what really made this sequence work was like, oh, when they reveal that Gordon's still alive, got a great cheer in the crowd, very well done. Usually in sequels, notice this, that the Batmobile right now just got wrecked. We got a lot of Batmobile in the first film, especially with that rooftop sequence, and we got enough of the Batmobile in the opening introduction Batman sequence here, as well as this moment, so it's like, okay, if we've got enough of it in the first film and in this one, let's do something new and different. It's a sequel. We have to keep the audience impressed and paying attention. So here he's going to eject, and we're going to get the Bat motorcycle. And it lends itself to a pretty great moment when it drives through the subway and crashes through the glass doors and all that. It's going to tie into the semi-truck flip-over moment. And the Batmobile is exploded, of course, self-destruct, so no one can know its secrets. Don't really believe the whole string the wire across the building so the helicopter will fly into it moment, because it's like, how did you know the helicopter was going to go down that route? Unless one of the Joker's henchmen are flying the helicopter. So one of those sort of disbelief moments. It's funny how the brain can really catch these moments easily if even in the middle of such a fast-paced action sequence. Oh, this is a classic trick right here where you have the kids in the car playing cops and robbers or shooting cars and they start blowing up. I think that was done in Transformers, where there was the battle on the highway and the kids were in the car with the mom. And it's like in every Spielberg movie, it's like a classic trick on how to get like a nice laugh and just a little breather moment during an action sequence. Helicopter crashes. Everything is going on here. You have the Joker relishing in the chaos and Batman driving through the subway here. That is Union Station near the Sears Tower, downtown Chicago. Haven't seen that before. Looks very cool. As this action sequence is going on, just to finish a thought with the Scarecrow, kind of feel that he was just very quickly resolved here so that he just kind of got out of our minds. That, okay, going into this movie, we're all thinking, well, what's the Scarecrow? What happened to him with the first film? And is he going to be, in this one, is he going to be a big factor? Will this film kind of take that classic, if there is a sequel, there should be two villains in it, kind of like Penguin and Catwoman from the Batman Returns and all superhero movie sequels after that. Oh, I'm going to be interrupted again by this sequence. Batman has just flipped over the semi, and it's very cool that it's a live-action stunt and it's not CGI. It just has a little more authenticity and a power to it. Nolan seems to be a fan of that. Inception was pretty CGI-free for the most part. The famous hotel battle, gravity-free battle sequence is a good example of the live-action stunt work. This moment here is a big one, especially for the theme of Batman, where he has a chance to run the Joker over, and he's kind of screaming here, and he decides to wipe out instead. Honestly, I don't like it. I really wish he would have just hit him. You don't need to kill him, but this is a perfect opportunity. It's the midpoint of the movie, a little bit over the midpoint. It's about an hour and 30 minutes in, another hour or so to go. Love the Joker's character here, how he beats his own guy down. And there's just a really great opportunity to show how Batman is being pushed to extremes, where he is really approaching the level of becoming like the Joker. And that could be explored. The Joker could even mention it. But instead, okay, fine, Batman knew that Gordon was in the truck. And the whole plan was that we're going to get the Joker and Gordon's going to reveal himself and we're going to catch him. And Harvey Dent wasn't in on it. Okay, it works. It's a pretty decent twist. And I know, again, I clapped in the theater. Gordon's alive. We're all happy. But what was great is that the movie made us believe that it actually killed off a major character. Here's a close-up of Ramirez again. And it's very cool. One experiment for this movie would be go back and just watch the moments with Ramirez. And her character is thought through well enough so that every moment you can see the direction from Nolan. He's just whispering in her ear like, you're in on it, you're working with the Joker, here's your motivation. And every time she's in it, we're getting that just from glances. She doesn't even need to say anything. As that scene ends and she looks away, as the car rolls away, it's like, okay, here's the next thing the Joker's going to do. I know he's going to kidnap Harvey and he's going to take Rachel. She knows the plan, and we get it in that little extra moment the camera holds on her. So well done. Very iconic shot right here of the Joker in the cell with the vest sitting, kind of giving the mayor and Gordon this grin, this evil grin. But quickly now to finish up with that Scarecrow idea is that if he's alive, okay, Gordon just got promoted. Why do I keep interrupting this thought? But great visual there. Everyone starts clapping on the Joker. Love how the Joker does his grinning smile and is clapping with the promotion. We have the emotional payoff here when the wife slaps Gordon and hugs him. Scarecrow could have been used a little more interestingly here if he was allowed to either be on the loose or maybe reference. Why doesn't Batman go visit him in prison? Because Scarecrow was a psychologist who might know something about the Joker, might know something about his personality. The Scarecrow doesn't necessarily need to know his name. Maybe he showed up, was incarcerated, and there was no name. He was just some insane guy. They never know anything about him, and Scarecrow has some interview knowledge with the Joker. Maybe he's tried to analyze him. The character of Scarecrow is very egotistical. He thinks that he's just this master of psychology. He can get inside people's minds. He uses his chemical powder substance on people to get them all fearful, which is, again, for Batman Begins is a story about overcoming fear. That's really the overall theme for Bruce in that movie, where it's like he wants to go from someone who is fearful to someone who is courageous. He wants to overcome that which is holding him back. So he takes on the symbol of the bat because bats scare him. And having the Scarecrow be a bringer of fear ties into the theme. It forces Batman to develop. It forces Batman to grow. So the Joker here is chaos, is that animalistic, dangerous, primal, just no humanity, no civility aspect of extreme kind of, if you're going to believe in something, go after what you want, how far will you go? How far can you go before you're so far into the abyss, into that darkness that you can't find your way out? What does it mean to go after the good, to seek justice, but if you're doing it in such a way where you're becoming the monsters you're trying to stop, is it even worth it? Can you come back from that? So just as the Scarecrow was a good opponent for Batman in the first film because it dealt with his theme, he was like a manifestation of his theme. He was fear personified because that was the tool he used. The Joker here is that aspect of Batman that needs developing now, that the theme that needs to be explored. How far is Bruce Wayne willing to take the idea of Batman? Is he willing to become more than his opponent in this film? This interview sequence here, this is a new beaten sequence, now the interrogation interview, where Batman, great shot where the lights come up and Batman's behind him and he just starts beating the Joker up. If Batman would have run the Joker over, hit him with the motorcycle, it would have been great to see a sort of disfigured or an injured Joker and show how that doesn't even affect him. Maybe his arm's broken, maybe just something's wrong with him. And this sequence could have been a little more powerful because now he's like, you're becoming more like me. Even though he does use the line of like, I need you, I don't want to kill you. Moments like this in a movie where a very strong, memorable, cinematic, original opponent is face to face with the main character just deepens our connection with both of these people and really engages us in the conflict. Think of movies that maybe necessarily didn't work. Transformers comes to mind. We don't necessarily get moments with Megatron and Optimus in the live-action versions. The reason the cartoon movie works is because we have moments where Optimus and Megatron are talking to each other. They're fighting with words, and that comes from the series. The whole one shall stand, one shall fall line is really powerful because it's built up from a whole bunch of seasons of the cartoon. This is really like, let's say, the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark moment where you have Indy and then you have the other archaeologist, I can't think of his name right now, who's working with the Nazis. And he says in this cafe scene in Cairo, Egypt, that we're basically the same person. We want the same things, but we're taking different actions to get there. They both have a love of archaeology, but one's aligned with the dark, evil forces, and the other one is having these standards. So here, it's very much like a Jungian, Carl Jung psychology thing where there's like the shadow part of the self. So if Bruce Wayne is the good part of that soul, and Batman is kind of like, not necessarily the bad part, but this darker part of the soul, then the Joker is also a part of that. It's just a manifestation. That opponent is a manifestation of that shadow, that darkness. And here, it's really Bruce looking into a mirror and what he can become if he continues to be pushed by the Joker. And it's just awesome how the Joker doesn't relent. It's such a powerful scene because we get an opponent that's well developed and is fighting with dialogue, based in emotion, based in what they believe, in their own perspective. And he's sharing that with the main character. He's fighting with them. And it's awesome how the Joker always has the ace of spades in his pocket. He's always one-upping the main character here. And this starts off a new beat in the sequence, where you had everything leading up from the capture of the Joker up into this moment. And now that was a decision on the main character's part that we're going to kind of set up the Joker, and we're going to capture him. Now we have the event that Rachel and Dent are captured. They're around the barrels, and they're going to explode soon, which was nicely just hinted at by the look that was caught. Again, Ramirez. Nolan's close-up on Ramirez. And this sequence starts where now, okay, the event, the Joker does something, takes action, and now the main character has to respond to that. So he's off to the races, trying to save him. And love how the Joker just continues to push everyone's buttons. I guess one, minor sort of complaint or logic issue would be that the Joker, it's just too perfect. He has everything so worked out. It's like a Rube Goldberg experiment where all the pieces, all the dominoes fall so perfectly that everything just aligns. And that's one of the issues with the Saw movies, is that it's too perfect. If Jigsaw is dead and he's been planning things out for years, and how does it all come together? It's a suspension of disbelief. But it's fun. It's a fun ride. And it just really works for this. Now there's the emotional little connection here between Rachel and Dent. We don't necessarily get a full picture of their relationship. Dent proposes to Rachel, or earlier he says, I want to be with you. And Rachel's got some feelings for Bruce, so it's not totally obvious until later when Alfred reads the letter and she says, I'm going to marry Dent. The relationship wasn't necessarily as explored as it could have been. It would have been nice if, for Dent, we would know why it's so important for him to have Rachel. There's not necessarily a exploration of okay, maybe his parents died when he was young, or who knows, his father did something, got sent to jail, and from that moment on he wanted to become a better man than his dad, and he became a lawyer, and then wants to be a mayor, governor, whatever. It would have been a little bit more interesting to just see that aspect of Two-Face, right? Because Two-Face is really no different than Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Bruce Wayne, Batman. Two-Face is a manifestation of something that's going on inside the person, where we all have the heads and tails, the light and dark part of ourselves. What does it take to break down Dent? And what does it take to break down Batman? Again, the major thematic fail here is that Bruce isn't pushed enough. In the interrogation, it does get pretty ruthless in terms of how he treats the Joker, but his buttons aren't pushed necessarily too far. And it would have been great to see Bruce/Batman go even further. Instead, Dent goes to the place where Batman should have gone in this movie. Again, Dent is the White Knight, Bruce is the Dark Knight, so they're basically this different sides of the same coin. But then Harvey Dent is kind of stealing some of that emotional thematic thunder, the power. That would be a challenge in the screenwriting here. How do you make it so that the themes aren't necessarily exactly the same? Here, the themes are kind of parallel side by side, and Dent is really stealing it away from Bruce. Love this, how the cell phone is buried inside the prisoner, and then the Joker makes the phone call. Again, so perfectly, a little bit too perfectly timed that this happens. And we get another kind of Inception-ish parallel editing that we saw earlier with the race to get to the warehouse to save him while at the jail the Joker's escaping and blowing things up. And just when they thought they had set up the Joker, now he set them up. That's a little bit too perfect, because it's okay, did the Joker know that Gordon was alive, that they were going to set him up and capture him, take him to the jail, and at the jail, he was able to get his human bomb placed in the cell? Or did the Ramirez character, the inside person that the Joker has, put that person with the bomb in their stomach in there? I guess that happened. I don't think it's the other way around where the Joker could have purposely gotten caught. This moment when Rachel explodes, wow. Just total, like, disbelief. I'm officially in the theater a little bit scared. Like, I really don't know what's going to happen. The Joker is so outrageous, so in control of everything, that it's really scary and exciting to watch this movie because, wow, they just killed off a major character. And again, I think if it was Katie Holmes, it would have gotten some jeers and cheers, and the emotional impact wouldn't have been what Nolan really intended. But at that point, it's just like, wow. And just this moment here where the Joker's out of the police car in the back and it's swerving back and forth. Nice kind of visual for the emotions of the moment where it's just swerving, out of control. Joker is creating chaos. It's ridiculous. Very cinematic shot here where Batman's looking down as the fire hoses are extinguishing the flames. And then Dent has been destroyed and the fire on his face. And the thematic kind of emotional moment of the film here is Alfred is reading the letter. And he's not going to let Bruce see it. I'll suspend my disbelief that the coin somehow was discovered in the rubble. And that, for some reason, Batman gives it back to Harvey. Is the transformation of Harvey Dent complete now that he has half his face burned off and his would-be fiancée is now dead? Yeah, but still, I need a little bit more with that character. I need to know exactly what his breaking point was. There's people who would go through that and they wouldn't snap. They wouldn't become evil. And Bruce here, this is a major scene that I don't really know if it works 100%. Rachel, love of his life, grew up with her, is dead. He wasn't there in time to save her. He made the choice to go save Rachel, but the Joker tricked him and saved Harvey. This should really destroy him. This should really put him into the dark night of the Dark Knight. The love of his life is dead. It's not that easy to overcome, and a 2-second pep talk from Alfred is not going to get him back in the fight, man. This should be Bruce falling into rage, anger, just like Yoda says in Empire Strikes Back. What is it? Fear leads to hate, hate leads to anger, or anger leads to the dark side. Whatever that little stepladder of doom is for a person's soul. That's the struggle we need to see Bruce undergoing, and this is his just emotional low point. It's his thematic, he's lost, man. He should really be, at this point, Bruce should be as close to being the Joker as he's going to get. This is like the ultimate motivation. He should be having the emotional reaction that Harvey Dent is having. He looks at the coin. I like the visual there. Again, watching this movie with no sound, really great to see how the visuals worked. How Harvey looks at the burned side of the coin and he knows the truth. It's like, unbelievable. Very well done. To quickly go back, I promise I want to finish this Scarecrow thought, is that it would have been cool if he would have, obviously he's still alive in the movie, he's incarcerated somewhere, could have possibly helped Batman to understand the Joker a little bit, and being a psychologist could have provided a way to have Bruce/Batman explore his darker side a little bit more. And then the Joker could have killed him off. It would have been great to see the Joker maybe cut Scarecrow loose or something. And the Scarecrow would want to be the top dog, but of course the Joker wouldn't let him. Joker would kill the Scarecrow off. There needs to be more of kind of a thematic, little personal objective story for the Scarecrow. And it would have been great to see him in motion throughout the film a little bit more, because he is a psychologist. He does have the fear thing going on, and he probably would have known the Joker at the asylum, And it would have been a nice kind of potential for some information and some scene work, but they kind of took the easy way out in terms of just like, okay, he gets tied up and he's locked away. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, because he was really underused in Batman Begins. Not really sure how I like this Two-Face. Seems a little bit too CGI'd. It does look real. Looks a little bit... I kind of wish it was a little more, I don't know, fleshy looking, a little more non-CGI. But get the point, the eyeball's kind of creepy, and he's kind of walking around with that. But I kind of wish there was like this sense, especially when he goes in the bar in a moment, where you could just get that sense of the glistening. There's the, the glistening on the eye, the skin, the tone, the sweat, whatever it is. I just kind of wish it was a little more palpable. It seems a little bit too crisp. But now we see he's basically gone insane, and okay, I guess we'll buy it at this point. But it's a little bit too easy, a little bit too quick. In that, okay, now I'm totally crazy. Rachel and half my face, that's all it took, and my coins burned. And that is a symbol visually for the dark side of me that's now taken over. Alright, again, originally it was supposed to take place over 2 films, but it was kind of squeezed into a 2.5-hour film instead of 2 hours. So probably that a third film would have a new villain to it, just the same way that the Scarecrow wasn't allowed to continue to be a force in this one. Would have liked to have seen it, because it would have opened itself up for character issues. Now we have the payoff from that setup of the whistleblower, the Batman whistleblower from Wayne Enterprises, who didn't get the payout from Morgan Freeman that he wanted. And again, one question to take here would be Morgan Freeman's character, just as an example. Edit out all of his scenes. What's Morgan Freeman's story in this movie? He's only in about maybe 6 scenes. He gets in it a little bit more towards the end with the sonar cell phone technology thing. But it's very just it's a very need to know basis role. His character's just there to kind of fill in the plot holes. He's not necessarily as alive as he could be in this moment. So awesome how the Joker burns all the money with the accountant sitting at the top. He doesn't care about money. I mean, he just burned billions of dollars, millions and millions and billions of dollars, however much there is. I mean, that big stack, is it all 20s? If it's hundreds, it's got to be a billion. If it's 20s, I guess it's in the millions. But awesome how he just doesn't care. He's pure chaos. Just totally overwhelming us with his objective and how he goes about it. That's what's really interesting for characters, is that we've seen all the personality types. I mean, we've seen psychotic characters before. John Doe from Seven is probably just as crazy as this guy. Jigsaw from Saw is just as crazy as this guy. But the way that they go about getting what they want is different. Even though with those 3 examples, they're all kind of similar. They're all sort of influenced from each other. Technically, I guess John Doe would be the first, but I'm not sure about the Batman comic book history. Maybe the Joker, as he got darker in the late 80s, early 90s, could have influenced John Doe, but I want to say that the John Doe in Seven was pretty dark, so I doubt that the comics at that point had gotten to such a level of character exploration in terms of that tone. Joker basically makes a plea that the whistleblower needs to be killed, or else the Joker will kill someone. Very well done. Just, again, another event from the opponent that creates chaos, creates tension, and it also explores just the overall kind of bigger message of the film, because the theme really resides in the main character's journey. So we have Bruce, and how far he'll be willing to go to take out this opponent. And then there's kind of like I guess you call it the message of the film, the moral, the exploration of the bigger picture, the society, the culture. Let's just say message. What is it trying to address? So it's addressing this kind of notion of terrorism, civility, chaos, and if someone makes that kind of a threat, kill this guy or else I'll start killing other innocent people, well, what's the choice? Are we going to protect just one person for the sake of the many? The Star Trek II quote from "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one." or the few, what's the choice? And it's interesting to see how now this guy is being chased by everyone, and it's like, take this guy out or else other people are going to die. You know, it's very well done, and it's a nice way to kind of explore these ideas. Love how the Joker's in the nurse's garb here. Did I just say garb in the nurse's outfit? The Joker seems to be everywhere. I guess we'll just buy that. He just kind of seems to be at the right place at the right time. And here we have the visuals of this guy who is also under the control of the Joker. And Gordon knows it. Really great scene here. That the Joker finally has a face-to-face with Dent. And Dent is reacting strongly. And by the end of this scene, the Joker will have convinced Dent to not necessarily hate him. He gives him a chance to kill him. Love the smile. And the Joker says, hi. Got a huge laugh in the theater. So we're with this character. The performance, again, by Ledger is amazing. But it's the character, it's the actions, scene by scene that he's in, that rope us in. And here we have this psychotic character, but he has a personality. He's got this very dark sense of humor. And now he's convincing Harvey Dent to join the dark side, to make those people truly responsible for the death of Rachel, make them pay. The Joker's not the one who killed her, it's Batman and Gordon and all those other people that created the Joker, that motivated the Joker to do what he had to do. He had no choice. Rachel would still be alive if it wasn't for those guys, not for the Joker. So he gives Dent the chance to kill him, and Dent chooses the revenge instead. It's kind of a little bit forced. I don't necessarily believe it 100%. But it kind of has to go where it has to go. And we'll buy it. Okay, fine. You know, it's like we have to have Dent become the bad guy, the fallen White Knight, and it has to lead to the end where for some reason Batman's going to have to take the blame. I'll talk about that more when we get to it. So here's this whole sequence. So that whole act of the Joker making the phone call and saying, okay, kill this whistleblower or else, that's a whole new beat in the sequence now. And so the previous scene, the Joker was in the warehouse with the money and he burned it and he killed the one guy. Loved how he tells the guy that the dogs, which are his, right? It's the mobster's dogs are going to eat him because the dogs aren't loyal or the dogs are just looking for food. So that's kind of like a comment on just society or the people here, the dynamic that's trying to be explored, and that loyalty is very thin. You know, loyalty is to whoever is providing tonight's meal. I heard some saying like chaos is only 9 meals away or something, that 9 meals equals 3 days. So 3 days without food and society starts to break down. Interesting idea. And that's what this movie really explores. The battle for humanity, the battle for decency. It's such an awesome scene that the Joker just gives Dent the chance. And Dent chooses not to. He chooses to go after the other people. So well done. Great idea. Don't 100% believe Harvey Dent because I don't necessarily know. Okay, he's going to do the coin flip. But still, letting his fate be determined by the coin flip. It's like, come on, man, you're a lawyer, dude. It's like the way you got to where you were is by decisions. You didn't keep flipping a coin. So where did that come from? Is it a joke? Why has it now become something important to you? What does it symbolize? We need a little bit more. So Harvey Dent's a little bit rushed in this film. In a lot of ways, Harvey Dent and Bruce, again, have similar themes, and what should be going on with Bruce is traded off for Dent. It's a little bit too diluted in terms of these two characters. Bruce shows up and saves the whistleblower. Now Bruce here, he seems way too over it. He seems over Rachel's death. Man. No way, sorry. Don't believe Bruce being back to normal. Bruce should be dark right now. Bruce should be in a very, very evil, a borderline evil place. This is probably the most enjoyable scene just in the theater watching this, when the building stops blowing up and the Joker's playing with the detonation device. So these moments of just comedy just really, really break the tension and connect you with the character. Even though, you hate for what he's doing, it's like, this guy's pretty interesting. It's really an opponent that you haven't seen before. Something new and different that we haven't seen on the big screen in this exact way. Again, the influences for kind of the whole Rube Goldberg chain of events stuff, the Simon Says Die Hard 3, Saw, 7, all that stuff. Okay, influences are obvious, but the way that this character uses those ideas is different. So it's not really about the ideas themselves, it's kind of how they're incorporated and the personality of the person. Humans are involved in the same stories. What makes them different is how each human being pursues objectives and engages in drama and conflict within those stories. So it's the character that makes the dynamic of the story, not necessarily the objective. Here the Joker starts creating the citywide panic with his latest YouTube video where the reporter reads off his demand or his warning, his threat to the city, and we get the reactions of everyone watching TV. Now, cut to the Q James Bond new technology of the film Money Shot. Really awesome idea. Loved how it was set up. Cool surprise for me. I didn't definitely expect that, where it was hinted at again with the cell phone in Tokyo. And now there's this just huge setup at the Wayne Enterprises. Love also the shots of just military troops in the city, kind of a very scary idea. Very 9/11-ish, kind of New York after the attack. Definitely has some parallels. Now, Dent in the bar takes the shot. Yeah, I don't really know. I get the Two-Face effects. It's decent. It's decent. So a little bit too CGI, but okay, that's just my taste. Do we buy that he's so crazy and he's flipping the coin to determine this guy's life? What is it with him and fate? For him and the coin, earlier there should have been something with him and fate that needs to be explored. Probably something to do with his parents or someone that he loved, maybe a previous fiancé or someone. Fate determined that he couldn't be with this person. This person died. It's got to be tied in, man. There's got to be something that sets him off, that makes him crazy this way. Again, we don't need to have the whole expository backstory, but we need to have hints at it. We need to have moments of his instability. Even it's got to be the yin and the yang. The dark night, the white night have bits of each other in them. So there has to be light in the dark and dark in the light. Here's the big Morgan Freeman moment where he is against this awesome technology. Now, supposedly, okay, this is Bruce, this is Batman going to the extreme, invading privacy. This is obviously a comment on the whole after 9/11 and all this, where's kind of privacy, do we trade our freedom for security and that whole issue. And Morgan Freeman's totally against it. He's going to resign, but he'll help him just this one last time. Thing is that Morgan Freeman's a smart guy. You got to know the Joker is outrageously, number one, intelligent. He can organize all these different booby traps and scenarios. But more importantly, he's totally crazy, psychotic, doesn't care about anybody. Human life means nothing to him. So why would Morgan Freeman oppose this? If you have extreme problems, you may have to go to extreme measures to solve them. And that's what's great here, is that, well, how much do we value our freedom and how badly do we want to be secure versus that freedom? Is it even worth living if there is no freedom and all you have is security? What's the trade-off? But Morgan's character here seems just a little bit too one-sided, and it comes out of nowhere. Now, a way to do a rewrite on this would be, okay, there's where you want your character to be. You want him to be at this moment when he tells Bruce, I'm going to resign because you've taken the idea of keeping people secure to the extreme. You are too powerful now. One person should not have this ability. So now go back every scene that Morgan Freeman is in and add that thematic idea to it. But turn it down a little bit, kind of the further away from the end that you get, so that at the beginning, Morgan is like, okay, I'll help you with this, Bruce. I know this guy's crazy. I'll invent something for you. But the more Bruce keeps asking for these things, or the more that it's obvious that Bruce is going to extremes, the more that Morgan is now against this. That needs to happen. But here it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, dude, this Joker's crazy. You just got to do whatever you can to stop him. Blow it up afterwards. But threatening to resign is such a false threat, and it doesn't ring true. And here we have the seatbelt and the flip of the coin and the mobster. The car flips over. I mean, it's cool dialogue. Very nice scene. Very cinematic. Well written. Again, I don't really know if I totally believe it in terms of the character. But everyone's dying here. It's like, okay, let's start killing off all these characters. We're going to get a really great setup here where there's the two boats, one with the convicts, one with the innocents. And they're each given the opportunity to blow each other up in order to save themselves. And the Joker is certain that the survival instinct and the laws of civility are not going to apply. So really great moment when Zeus, I believe the guy who played Zeus in the Hulk Hogan wrestling movie, what was that? I can't think of the name right now. But it's like circa 1990 with Zeus, the WWF, when WWE was still called WWF. Zeus and Hogan battle it out. And he's still around. And he throws the detonator out the window as well on the other boat. The civil people choose not to blow anybody up. Well done. And you always have to have the character who kind of represents, here's what I believe, and what do we? They had their chance, and we're the innocent ones. We should have the chance of life, and they committed crimes. They deserve to be dead, and all that. So some nice issues being explored, and it's truly this just battle between Batman and Joker and these ideals. It's a battle of ideals. This is the personification. Each character represents something. Very cool visual. This is so awesome when Morgan is working through this and he's getting the sonar readouts. Such a great idea. So give this movie a lot of points for that. Still, don't necessarily believe Morgan. Lucius, right? That's I've been trying to think of his name the whole commentary. Lucius decides, no, I can't do it. But okay, I'll help you now. It just looks so cool. But this, again, at this point, Batman needs to be at this point where when he's looking for the Joker right now, he is going to kill him. Because Rachel is dead. There needs to be more of an impact from Rachel's death. This is just, it's too easy. Okay, she died. I'm in my penthouse. Alfred makes me some scrambled eggs and pats me on the shoulder. I'm back to normal. Not going to happen, man. The Dark Knight needs to get medieval. Needs to go to a place where he, it's deep in the cave, right? He lives in the Bat Cave. So it's that deep, dark place within. That metaphoric place. He needs to get there. And really, it's somehow, maybe it would have been a cool visual. He fights with the Joker, and some of the Joker's makeup gets on his mask, on his face, and he kind of sees a reflection. I know it's kind of I don't know how you set that up to make it believable, but something like that, where there's just this kind of resemblance, of each of them, and Batman realizes, okay, he's going too far. If he becomes the Joker, it's like the rebel who overthrows the tyrant, the hero, the leader of a resistance who overthrows the tyrant soon becomes the tyrant. It's you become kind of that which you hate if you go too far. And it would have been nice to see Batman go in that direction. Right now, Harvey's gone crazy. Again, I don't totally buy his transformation, but we need Batman to go to that level, because this movie, if the first movie is about the journey of overcoming fear to become courageous and become an example of something the city needs, become an example of if one man can make a difference, everybody can, this movie needs to be about how far are you willing to go that way to be an example, to help people overcome this fear and to do what needs to be done. It's a slightly missed opportunity here. What really keeps the movie going at this point is the Joker. And this tension of, are the boats going to blow each other up? With Harvey in the meantime. So there's this multiple editing going on again, where, okay, Dent's got the family hostage, so that's a setup. So every time we cut back, it's a payoff. Oh, what's he going to do? And is Gordon going to get there in time? And is Batman going to save the day? Meanwhile, on the boats, so we have that setup going on. We cut between the boats, then we cut back to Batman and Lucius and the Joker. So there's this pattern of setup, payoff, setup, payoff. So we're always inching forward in our seat, because it's like, okay, we're cutting to this scene, we're setting it up, we're cutting to this payoff, we're ending that scene on a setup, we're cutting back to another scene, paying that off, and there's this nice rhythm and this nice tension that's built. And Gordon probably should have shot Batman right there. That would have been a nice ballsy move. Been a little bit, not out of character, but extreme. Everyone's being pushed to extremes in this film. Love the very cool little glasses that come over Batman's eye sockets, and he's looking around in the sonar vision. So great. And it's perfect, because what do bats use to navigate? And it's perfect because it mimics in a certain way kind of the way that bats navigate, right? They can't see. So he's kind of fully becoming this idea of the Batman, and how dark will he go? Again, it would be nice if that is explored a little bit more. And it would have been great if Gordon was pushed, again, if he shot him, if going to extremes. I mean, everyone's being stretched by the Joker. It's like you don't know how far you go until you're put into that moment of crisis of conflict. And the Joker is the ultimate example of that. Nice visual here where everyone who looks like the henchmen of the Joker are really the innocent people. They have their hands taped to the guns. And the building that's being used here in Chicago, I want to say this was the Trump Tower. I haven't really done any research, but 2008, 2007, I think the only major project in the area was the Trump Tower that was being built downtown-ish. But who knows, this could all be on a set. The magic of movie making. Love it when Batman goes crazy and starts beating everyone up. Just his punches are so outrageously strong. It's a lot of fun. That sonar vision is so great. The dogs and everything. People shooting through the glass. Batman making the moves here. Good action, nice choreography. It's nothing too revolutionary in terms of like a, I don't know, Jackie Chan, Jet Li kind of stuff. Or Matrix choreography, but it is engaging and fun. So cut away with the setup there. Batman is fighting, and he set the timer, 59 seconds for all those to explode. He's shot the little squishy bombs against the posts, so that's a setup. Anytime a clock starts ticking, we're like, okay, and here we have counting down to midnight. So anytime that goes on, it's like we're locked into our seats. This is passing the bathroom test of, okay, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave my seat because I need to see what happens. There's no such thing as a slow moment right now. It's all coming together. And there we have the bombs going off and the timers paying off. People are falling through the floor. I kind of wish that the Narrows would have been incorporated into this movie a little more. I understand the whole thing about sequels and a desire to make them feel fresh, new, always kind of provide us like a new stimulation. But the Narrows was such a cool idea, and this whole slum just geography of how Gotham City looked, it really feels like the city is a little bit different. The color scheme is, again, it's different in terms of black and blue versus the sort of tan, brown, black of the Begins. But it just feels a little bit too different in terms of the city. And the Narrows really provides something that could be explored, even if it's not visited so much. It should always kind of be there, because it was a major part of the first film. So I think that was kind of a little bit of a cheat, that it really got disregarded didn't really follow through because, again, the Narrows was really in chaos at the end of the first film because of the gas in the lines and all the whole plan that Ra's al Ghul had and everything. So I just really wish they kind of would have followed through with that. Here we go, Zeus. Dude, come on, you can't forget that look. Absolutely, that's him. And he takes the detonator. We should have done this right at the beginning. So it's the classic story of the criminal who's learned his lesson, or the criminal has more heart than the people who are free. And here's kind of the douchebag free guy who very selfish and scared, and he's going to stand up and be like, okay, I'll be the one to do it. Kind of would have believed it a little bit more if it was like some rich young kid. I mean, he's got a lot of motivation to live, you know? It would have been cool if other people would have stood up. There's the whole idea of the bystander effect, that no one's going to make the first move. It's like when more than one person start to do something, everyone else will follow, even though everybody knows the right thing to do, or everyone wants to take action, but they're assuming that someone else is going to do it for them. So there's that whole bystander thing. That probably could have been explored a little bit here, where if Batman really wants to inspire change, if Batman doesn't want to be just the sole symbol of this freedom fighter, this man of justice, this force of good, and he wants to awaken it within everybody, that would have been the perfect scene for other people to kind of be like, okay, we're going to make this decision together. Just something like that. It could have been explored a little bit. Do like how this guy is about to do it, but just the gravity of, okay, what it means. I mean, a human soul is a human soul, even if it is a little tarnished and dirty and not necessarily as clean as it was when it came into this world. But then again, the Joker, I mean, do you save a soul that's so far gone, that's so dimly lit, if there is any light left? When is the point where someone cannot be redeemed? Love that moment there where the Joker is ready to smile, and he is disappointed that people let him down, and he makes that kind of funny line, you just got to do it yourself. And here we go. So there's a relief, and this really nice kind of emotional moment in the theater where there's like this restored faith that people would do the right thing even if their lives were at stake. But the Joker, he's got his plan. He's crazy. Again, he's a psychotic. So he's willing to do it himself. And then there's the payoff again. If you introduce a gun in the first act, it's got to go off by the third. So we had the little jokey scene earlier where those kind of spikes were introduced with Lucius, and now he used them and he got the Joker here. The notion of the Spider-Man web sling kind of thing where the guy's fallen and he just shoots his little wire and catches him. Okay, I guess I could see it. Love this this camera is awesome. Very nice shot. So well done. Where the Joker's upside down world, we slowly rotate the camera, and now his skewed world is on the same viewpoint as ours. And he's talking to Batman, what seems to be face to face. We know it's upside down, but just the way it's done. I love how his jacket's just hanging over him in the background. And again, Christian Bale, I'm Batman. I've got this voice. I don't know about the whole mouth exposed thing. I mean, it's kind of like the one out of date thing about this costume. It's very Clark Kent-y. I mean, even though 80% of his face is covered, it's not like you're totally hiding it. The chin and the mouth, I mean, it's got some features, some characteristics that are recognizable. I don't know, I wish they would kind of, especially for bad guys, it's like, okay, hey dude, shoot him in the mouth. Note to every bad guy in every comic book movie, shoot the hero in the face. Because the face is the least protected part of everybody. Like, even RoboCop, dude. You know, it's like, shoot him in the face, in the mouth. It's flesh. Lame. But we'll go with it. Suspension of disbelief. And another great scene between the two major forces of the film. Now, in the rewriter, in this version where Bruce is on the verge of becoming like the Joker, That needed to be the scene where he was about to kill the Joker. He was about to become the thing that he hates. There needs to be more rage. There needs to be something much more dramatic and much more emotional and just beastly, kind of fierce, just very primal, very out of control. This is Bruce Wayne. This is Batman, the dark shadow persona of Bruce Wayne, raging because this guy, the Joker, killed Rachel. One of his reasons for doing this thing in the first place, the love of his life, the family friend, the one who knows his secret, the one who knows his inner self, knows him before he was damaged goods, and the person he's become. It's got to be a lot more powerful than that, and it was a little bit too easy. Bruce's character needed to go through something there, and it's kind of cliche, like, okay, the good guy is gonna kill the bad guy, but then has a change of heart or says, like, oh no, if I kill you, I become just like you. Okay, fine. It's been done before, but to see a different character with their own specific personality and issues go through it, that's something different, that's something new, something we're going to enjoy. So if we continue to go on that journey with this character, because Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are Bruce Wayne's, is Batman's story, because Batman Begins and The Dark Knight is the story of Bruce Wayne. It's his journey from this little kid to this savior of the city. And this is his darkest hour, so it needs to go there. It needs to go Michael Corleone. But it doesn't. It gets too caught up in the Harvey Dent aspect. Harvey Dent becomes what Bruce needed to do. Could have had both people doing it. It would have maybe felt a little bit similar. If Harvey would have been developed a little bit more, then we can buy it. But right now, Harvey's undergoing the journey that Bruce should have been undergoing. And the scene with the Joker, it's really well done, because anytime we get those people on screen, the opponent, the main character, especially in this film, such a powerful force, right? The unstoppable force meets the immovable object sort of paradox. Really nice dynamic. And fine, Batman throws him off, but then decides to save him. Whatever it is, make it so that we feel that there's been a catharsis, that Bruce has let Rachel go, or he's forgiven himself, because he should feel guilty because of that. I mean, in Batman Begins, Katie Holmes really brought this nice idealism. She was very much like a Harvey Dent, a female Harvey Dent in Batman Begins. She was a crusader trying to go after the right thing, so you could see how she'd be attracted to Harvey Dent. In this film, she had less passion. She wasn't as focused. So there needed for her to be that continued idealism that was in that first movie. And that should be something that she's trying to infect Bruce with, to help him to see. So I really liked how Katie Holmes brought that to life in the first film. And here, Maggie just she did it all right. She played kind of like the girl next door, but she didn't necessarily bring that character's journey there. Again, Rachel should be developing on her journey in her story. She should be doing her own thing. But she kind of gets forgotten about. She kind of just becomes like Harvey Dent's girlfriend. Her death will be the motivation for his insanity. And really just becomes a function of the script instead of the a character she could be, and the added element. We really need her harmony in this symphony. We need her note. We need to have her flavor to this dish that is Batman, The Dark Knight. This is pretty ruthless here, where we have Harvey Dent and the kid, Gordon's kid with the gun. It doesn't get crazier than that, but again, I don't believe it 100%. It seems very forced, like we have to have the fall of Harvey Dent before this movie ends. And now we have to have Batman dive off, and Harvey gets killed, and he saves the kid as he should. And then this whole thing of like, we can't let anyone know that Harvey went crazy, and we can't let him know that he killed some people, because if the city finds out, there's no hope for the belief that any person can make a difference, that we're going to need Batman forever. It's too forced. It's okay, writing this film, any film, you're like, okay, here's the idea of where I want this character by the end of the film, or how are we going to end it so that when it goes into the third movie, we're picking up from this point. Okay, so everyone thinks Batman is the evil guy, and he's gone from hero to zero, and he's the new villain. Okay, I mean, I get it, but it's so forced, so fast, it makes no sense. It's like, okay, well, how about you just blame everything on the Joker? I mean, he had the whole city under control. He's everywhere when he needs to be. So just say, that cop and this person, the Joker did it. Or one of the henchmen did it. And Harvey Dent, we've had him the whole time and he died and he didn't make it out of surgery or he died in the hospital when it blew up. Simple, dude. That's it. What could be done in a rewrite if the notion of Dark Knight follows through Batman Begins in terms of Bruce Wayne, Batman's journey, his thematic challenge in this film again, is to steer away from that dark side, to steer away from becoming like the Joker, from becoming what Two-Face became. Why not maybe have footage of him going crazy with the Joker earlier? Or he's so possessed that he's killing all these bad guys, and there's footage of it, right? The media, the Breakfast Club dude, reporter, he captures footage of Batman being ruthless and evil, and now everything's blamed on him because he really did go there. He really went to these extremes. And in order to do good, he did some bad. Make it dark, man. He's the Dark Knight. And kind of like the whole thing with, during war, I mean, there's horrible things are done in the name of peace and justice and whatever the cause is that a lot of people don't know about because there's no such thing as a civil war, right? I mean, it's all horrible. So there are those secrets that we don't want to know. We don't want to know how things stay peaceful, how civility is maintained, because if we did, it'd be a little bit stressful. It'd be a little bit, that's kind of dark. And here's the code word, Lucius Fox, and I'll destroy this awesome technology. Dude, it's in Wayne Enterprises. How about you just close the lock on the door and no one else is going to know about it? Only Lucius Fox and Bruce Wayne know about it, so don't worry. It could probably come in handy when King Tut or whatever other bad guy shows up, But we get the resolution. Okay, fine. Now we quickly start resolving all the people, all the major characters for the film that are still alive. I mean, this was a very just kind of let's shock us and surprise us by killing people that we care about. And again, this is so forced. So organic way of doing this would have been if Batman really went to this dark side, really did do some horrible things, forgivable things in the long term. Things tend to be forgivable if the horrible things are done to horrible people. So if he did it in the name of justice, if he did something to the Joker, okay, you could buy that. But unfortunately, the lack of focus on the theme of the character's journey here creates this need of, okay, we need a Batman to be here by the end, and we have to force it. So I totally don't dig this ending where, now I'm going to be what I need to be. We need to protect the legend of Harvey Dent, and I was the one that did all these horrible things. We'll just make it that way. Batman's the bad guy now. No, dude. Don't even need that. The Joker, either the Joker's guys did everything, which everyone would believe, or Batman really did do some things because he was in emotional turmoil. His girlfriend, love of his life, got killed, and he went crazy because he's the one who created all this. If he never became Batman, there wouldn't be a Joker. There wouldn't be all this horribleness. There would be a Joker, but there wouldn't necessarily be all of the domino effect events that occurred because of Batman's actions. So he is the first domino that fell, that became part of this. So because of the lack of character development for the Dark Knight, the ending feels forced. Whereas if it was organic and the Joker's actions affected him and it was all kind of nicely combined, and incorporated, it would have made sense. It's a minor gripe because overall, outstandingly made film. It works in so many ways, so ambitious. It's a very challenging take on the whole comic book movie idea, where just because it's comic book or whatever the source material is doesn't mean it has to necessarily be, I don't know, kiddie or simple or naive. You can explore a lot of interesting ideas and themes and real world problems with stories like that. And that's, again, what stories are really for. Stories are for exploring the possibilities of life. They're mental experiments, fictional experiments of what could be, practicings of the imagination. Amazing performance. I think what obviously sells this movie is the Joker. If you take the Joker out of this film, it's it's just okay. But the performance, the just totally a possessed performance by Ledger, just takes it to a whole new level. And just the idea of the character, it's influenced by some things that already exist, but there's a lot of new elements to it. And his menace on the screen, just a solid opponent, makes for amazing drama. And that's all we can ask for with a film. Give us a main character that's pursuing an objective and has a strong opponent fighting against them. That's why the Terminator is awesome, because we actually believe that these opponents can defeat the main character. You know, the question is always, how is our main character going to somehow overcome this seemingly overpowering force? And that's the fun of it. That's how is Sarah Connor going to defeat the Terminator? I want to stick around and watch that. How is this wimpy rebel alliance going to stop the Empire? I'll hang around for that. How is Frodo going to get the ring to Mount Doom? Seems impossible. That's why I want to watch it, because I believe that there's a chance that it's not going to happen. Even though deep down we all know in most films the main character is going to be victorious, but the journey, the question of how the end occurred is what drives us to watch, not if it's going to happen. It's the journey, not the destination, that makes life and watching movies interesting. As we know, this movie made $1 billion, and as a result, Christopher Nolan was able to make Inception, an original idea, obviously influenced by previous films, but he put his unique spin on it. We have some elements here in the filmmaking that found their way into Inception, so we have the continued growth of a filmmaker. But what's most exciting is that there's originality, there's inspiration, there's passion within Nolan, and he really obviously enjoys making his films, and he's trying to give us something that we've never seen before. That's all we can ask. We need to continue to support movies like that. And this is what makes going to a movie fun. Sitting in a packed theater, anticipation, and the movie delivering beyond what was expected. We know it was going to be good. We knew the Joker was going to be a great bad guy, great villain. And he was even better than we thought. So it's very difficult to do that. And obviously, Warner Brothers was like, okay, there's no way anyone's going to see the third Batman film without Christopher Nolan as the director. So we need to make him happy. Let's let him do Inception, which is also making great money. It's made 600-something worldwide. Might get to around $700 million, which is very impressive for a, again, original screenplay. Very, very tough to market. It's not a very easy concept to sell in terms of a title or a poster. Even during a preview, you can't get the whole film in a sentence. It's not like Dinner for Schmucks. You pretty much get that. So it's a nice sign of movie hope that movie's made as much as it has. It's made, let's say, 640, something like that, 640 million, and The Dark Knight made $1 billion. So only 360 million more, and it was a huge property, easily marketable, and highly anticipated after the Batman Begins. So it might be a combo of the story and Nolan's reputation. He's established himself. So The Dark Knight, sign of movie hope. Hope you've enjoyed this movie night. We are at the end. The credits are rolling. The Dark Knight. Part 3. Coming out 2011. I hope. I hope we don't have to wait till 2012. Leave some thoughts. What did you think of this movie night? Agree, disagree? Something I missed? Something you want to talk about that wasn't discussed? So until the next movie night, Always remember to choose your movies wisely because StoryCorp always gives us more of what we pay for. And until next time, long live good movies.
What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to Movie Night. I'm the movie preview critic, and today we're going to be watching The Dark Knight. It was definitely the most anticipated movie of 2008, and probably the most anticipated DVD as well. So now that it's out, it's time to take a look, now that the buzz has worn off, that we're all not drunk from the excitement of it finally coming out, and really see what we have here. The angle I'm going to take is from a screenwriting filmmaking point of view, so kind of just analyzing the structure and the characters and the motivations and all those elements that kind of come together to make up the film, as well as a little bit of the background, talking about the directors and the stars, Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, and obviously Heath Ledger. And just a quick review about Movie Night. The best way to get the most out of this is obviously to see the movie first, so with The Dark Knight that's not so much of a concern because we've all seen it already. If not once, at least 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 times. So go ahead and put your DVD in the player, and as that loads up and gets ready to play, let's talk about one quick thing here. This DVD is created by Warner Brothers. And it's official after this one that Warner Brothers makes horrible DVDs. Now, I don't know about Blu-ray. I haven't gotten the money to pay for a Blu-ray player yet. But in terms of DVDs, Warner Brothers is notorious for just doing the bare minimum, putting the movie, getting some scene selection and maybe some languages, and skimping on any kind of extra features, and it's so true here. The biggest movie of the year. It wowed audiences, it wowed the critics, it virtually did nothing wrong, and it gets just a slap in the face. Total disrespect in the DVD format. Now on the Blu-ray, I know there's a 2-disc set, and let's review those features very quickly. You get the Gotham Uncovered creation of a scene, so Christopher Nolan reviews his process for creating some of the stunts, filming in IMAX, and some Batsuit and design, so an overview of the film in a very quick sort of little featurette. You get the Batman tech, talking about the gadgets and tools, Batman Unmasked, something about the psychology of the Dark Knight, and then Gotham Tonight. So there were 6 episodes of a cable premiere news program set in the world of Gotham City that kind of interviewed characters within the movie and was really popular leading up to the release of The Dark Knight. And then you have some galleries of pictures and things like that. That's not a bad start, but you have to believe that there's a lot more material of behind-the-scenes footage here. This is the biggest movie of the year, so you gotta believe that documentary crews were all over the set interviewing everybody involved with the movie. And here you just kind of get a little taste of that footage that's just hidden somewhere that hasn't been released yet. Also, let's just ask for a Christopher Nolan director's commentary. At minimum, we gotta hear from him. He's masterminded Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, 2 revolutionary, just stepping up the standard of comic book movies, and we don't get to hear from him firsthand. Also on the Batman Begins DVD, you don't have a commentary by him. Maybe you can get his brother in here, Jonathan Nolan, who also co-wrote the film, and David S. Goyer, who co-wrote Batman Begins, and did a treatment for this one and really had this 3-part series laid out with Harvey Dent, transformation in the next movie, but they kind of moved it into this one, but we'll get into that later. We would love to hear from them. We want to know the secrets of how such a great movie got put together from conception to creation, but that's not here, and that's the curse of Warner Brothers DVD, Blu-ray philosophy. I don't know what the deal is, but just as an example, or just as an experiment, go to your local store or go to your online rental source and just pick 4 Warner Brothers DVDs. When you get them, I'm pretty sure you're going to find it's the same format as here. So by now, the movie's just kind of rotating in the menu screen as we're sitting here chatting about this. And you're going to notice there's really just going to be 3 options here for you. Play the movie, scene selection, or languages. What the is that? This is The Dark Knight. Give me more. And don't bother trying to look for some DVD Easter eggs. I've tried to push all the buttons. I've watched the movie all the way through, hoping it unlocks some invisible image that you gotta find by pushing the navigation buttons around the main menu screen. Doesn't happen. There's no cookies, there's no Easter eggs, there's no surprises. This is just plain suck format. Warner Brothers DVD suck ass format. Alright, well at least we have the movie to compensate for the DVD shittiness. Alright, enough focusing on the negative. Let's celebrate this excellent movie. Hit play. You'll see a little intro by the Joker, followed by a blue PG-13 screen. And we're going to get rolling here. The opening here really says a lot on how Christopher Nolan respects Batman and us, the audience. He doesn't play around with who's starring in it, who produced it, who wrote it, who directed it. There's no title sequence in Batman Begins or in The Dark Knight. It just gets right to the story. So you gotta love that. It's really interesting how color scheme plays a part in Batman Begins and in The Dark Knight. Dark Knight here is going to be very blue and black. Very dangerous, kind of night-timey kind of feel. That obviously really goes well with the title. And that might relate to the nature of a fight, where you get your bruises and you're black and blue. Batman Begins had a very earthy tone. It was brown and black. And really the city in Batman Begins had that whole kind of tone to it, like a yellowish, brownish black, which really conveys this like dirty, murky kind of a feeling. That feels kind of just like a bathroom that's never been cleaned and the walls are stained from cigarette smoke. And that's really what the Narrows feel like, just this dirty place that needs to be cleaned up, and that's what Batman Begins is very much about. There's crime and evil that already exists, and someone needs to clean it up. Gotham City is just a very dirty, dangerous place. Batman's here to put on his rubber gloves and get some bleach out and do a little spring cleaning. The Dark Knight has a crisper, colder feel, and those colors of blue and black really kind of bring that out. Just this dispassionate sort of universe where it is what it is. There's this anarchist named the Joker running around, killing people and just creating terror everywhere. There's no natural nice force that's going to stop it. Someone's got to step up, and that's Batman embodied in this kind of black outfit. He is this creature of force. And that cool tone really comes across here with the way that Chicago is filmed, where you have all these shots of buildings with just glass, this reflective, cold glass. The sun might be out, but there's an eerie, nightmarish quality that feels like there is no warmth here in this city. We'll talk more on how Gotham City feels different in The Dark Knight than it did in Batman Begins a little bit later, but right now we get to just the excellent action sequence, just the way to drag you into the film, get you on the edge of your seat right away, get you involved, no time to rest. The Joker and his henchmen robbing the Mafia bank. In terms of influence, a lot has been said how this sequence really reminds people of the famous bank robbery sequence in 1995's Heat, which was the second time Al Pacino and Robert De Niro starred in a film together. The first time it was Godfather 2, but in that film they never met on screen. So Heat was the first time these two were in the same film fighting against each other. That was directed by Michael Mann, and just the sound of the bullets from the machine guns during that robbery and just the car crashing and screeching, it's an amazing action sequence, and the way the city's filmed really influences the way Nolan points his camera here in Dark Knight. Gotta absolutely love how the music just brings you into the film on a whole nother level. It just really captures the mood. Just listen to that bass kind of drum in the background, almost like this tribal kind of beating, and that's just like your heart's supposed to be that engaged in this sequence. Let's take a look at the structure of this film. Now, very quickly, just any kind of standard film that's released by a Hollywood studio has some very basic elements to it. You need a main character that's pursuing an objective. You need an opponent who's battling the main character over that objective. Then there has to be a character known as either the window character, the reflection character, a confession cam character, sort of like in reality TV, where after struggling to fight for an objective, the main character takes some time to talk about how he or she feels about this struggle, how it's changing them as a person. And this is where a theme comes into the movie, where a character's arc, their journey, emotional journey, starts to emerge. How is a character at the beginning of a film, at the beginning of a story, and how are they at the end? If they're the same, we, the audience, may not feel as satisfied as we'd like to be. The films that we really connect with are the ones where the character undergoes a pretty strong emotional growth, where they start out one way at the beginning of the film and they move to becoming a new kind of person, a different kind of person. Not necessarily a better kind of person. You have Brad Pitt in Seven. By the end of that, he's in a very, very dark place. Same thing with Michael Corleone in The Godfather 2. Or on the other hand, you could have Neo or Luke Skywalker in The Matrix and Star Wars, where at the beginning they were kind of these naive characters, and in the end they discover their destiny. They discover the inner strength that they have, and they become someone new, someone stronger, someone different. I never understood the cockiness of the banker character here. He obviously works for the mob and he's got the shotgun and he feels a little bit more powerful than he really is because he has all these connections, but he's obviously on the ground wounded, and this psycho bank robber clown face guy has just killed all of his associates and is about to leave, but he opens his mouth and gives the Joker some attitude. Why would you do that? Just save your life. You know this guy's crazy and he'll totally kill you if you piss him off. But I guess you could say that's being true to his character. You have to imagine for every character that you create on the paper or that an actor is going to create on screen, they have a backstory, they have a history, they have a unique way of behaving, and they have to stay true to that. James Joyce, writer of Ulysses and other amazing classical works, said that an author should know how much change a character has in their pocket, even if they never pull that change out. It's always important for the author to know that. Same thing for an actor. I've heard of actors where they have a character who has a purse, and they want to know exactly what that character would put in the purse, even though we're never going to see that character on the screen reveal what's inside of that bag. Because The Dark Knight is a sequel, the character of Batman has already been established in the previous film, Batman Begins, so we don't need to open up this film with the character we already know. When dealing with a heroic figure, the key in storytelling and in filmmaking is to establish a strong opponent. Because in any movie where you have a strong main character, their journey towards getting their objective and fighting an opponent is only as interesting as the strength of the opponent. If that opponent is weak, we're never going to feel that the main character has their work cut out for them. And especially if you want your main character to grow, they need a strong opposing force to really challenge them and push them to the limit so that they can discover who they are and what they're capable of and what they're not capable of, as we'll see later on when Batman realizes he can't go to that dark place. He can't violate his own rules that he's established for a code of conduct. And if it wasn't for the Joker, he would never learn that he has those limits. Oh, this movie's moving so quickly. There's a lot to say about those previous scenes, but we're at the moment with the Scarecrow here, and this needs to be talked about because it's one of the flaws in The Dark Knight, and it was also a flaw in Batman Begins. In Begins, you introduce this great character, this perfect character, because the Scarecrow is a psychologist, a crazy psychologist, demented, psychotic, and Bruce Wayne is going through a lot of personal issues. He's still developing this strength and overcoming his fear, and the Scarecrow uses people's fear. So it's a perfect opponent that can be used to challenge the main character and force them to grow. Now, at the end of Begins, Scarecrow just gets basically dismissed. He gets tasered in the face, and he rides off on a horse. And so we're thinking, okay, he's got to come back in the sequel. You just kind of wish he had a stronger sort of end to that film. But you know, okay, great, he's going to be in this one. So he shows up. We're about 10 minutes into the film, a little bit over, and he's here. Great, we're finally going to get a quality end to the Scarecrow-Batman relationship. But we don't, because all Batman does is knock him out and tie him up with everyone else and just leave him. And there's no scars or marks from the face taser. You think that there'd be a little bit of something. It'd be cool to see him a little bit more deformed, and he wants to keep the bag on his face. Maybe he's fallen totally into the Scarecrow character. He doesn't even realize that he's a human anymore. In his mind, he's become this creature of fear. This sequence really just establishes Batman picking him up from where the previous film ended. He's still got his jujitsu, kung fu abilities. He knows how to take opponents out. Great. He's pretty much at the same level where we left him at. He's still got the gadgets. He's got this metallic grip thing that allows him to bend the barrel of the gun and allows him later to cut into the van. But he does seem a little bit angrier, and I really love the sound here when he's just punching everyone. There's just such a thud, such a power to it. You can just feel that he's just on steroids or something. You know, it's Batman to the max. It's just too bad that this scene doesn't lead to any complications further in the film. It would have been great if Scarecrow actually escaped and maybe partnered up with the Joker, or thought he could partner up with the Joker. Maybe he's so cocky and he thinks he's so smart that he can control the Joker, get into his head and explore his fears, and the Joker ends up killing him. That would have been a better ending for the Scarecrow. If he would have teamed up with the Joker would have been using him, you'd still be able to exploit all of his fear-based character traits, and it would just be great to see how it relates to the Joker and his hidden past. If you're a criminal psychologist, this might be the most interesting challenge of your life. This criminal who has no past, no way to find out who he was and how he became what he is. So this whole sequence is very much, let's just get Scarecrow out of the audience's mind. We're all wondering how he's going to fit into the story. So when we see him on screen, we all cheer because, great, the filmmakers didn't forget about him, and we get a resolution. So we feel, okay, we know what's going to happen to him. At least that's not a loose end. Now we can focus on the present moment of the film and the new villain, the Joker. I, for one, really wish he would have had a bigger part in the film. I think he really could have complicated the relationships in a great way and added another form of menace. And really, we could have gotten to see his full range of evil. but it's cut short. Again, The Dark Knight doesn't really make many mistakes, but that's really one of them. And if the word mistake is too strong, let's just call it a missed opportunity, especially because of the end of Batman Begins, where Scarecrow lets loose all of the inmates of Arkham Asylum. You gotta believe that the Joker was one of those inmates, so that means there's a potential that Scarecrow knows his true identity, or at least has studied him, and can maybe predict his behavior. This dynamic could have created a couple great sequences where Batman searches for the Scarecrow because he wants to find out who the Joker really is. Instead of here, Scarecrow kind of gets put into the scene, which serves two purposes. The scene is really about introducing the idea that there's these vigilante Batmen. That Batman has inspired these armchair quarterbacks to get off their couches, finish their beers, suit up, and find a new way to get a thrill. In this case, dressing up as the Caped Crusader. The other purpose is to resolve the Scarecrow. So it basically knocks two birds out with one stone. And even if this scene just stayed the way it is, the Scarecrow is caught. That means he's in a jail or he's back at Arkham Asylum. So in a later scene, maybe the Joker could take him out before Batman could get to him and find out the truth. That would have been a whipped cream topping on what's already a pretty delicious dessert. And there's a really important thematic message element of the movie that's added onto the scene right here, where the wannabe Batman asks the real Batman, "What's the difference between me and you?" Batman responds by saying, "I'm not the one wearing hockey gear." And this really relates to the whole notion that Batman's trying to inspire legal action, a legal way of getting rid of crime instead of more vigilante justice, but it's not working at the moment. Which is why Harvey Dent becomes so important as a symbol. And here, this is kind of a goofy little moment where we get Gordon in the bank after the crime, and Batman shows up just out of nowhere. He's using his ninja invisibility tricks. It's just kind of a little bit goofy that it happens a couple times in Batman Begins, and it happens here in Dark Knight, where he just leaves the conversation in the middle of it. Again, it makes sense, but it just comes off as sometimes a little goofy. Why doesn't he just hang around and say, "Okay, that's the plan, shake hands, okay, I'm out of here"? Even when he leaves the vault, fine, Gordon didn't see him, but someone out there's got to see him walking around. But whatever, that's for some kind of spoof movie later on. That's a very spoofable element of this film. Love this scene here where Alfred's bringing breakfast to Bruce at the top of the condo, hotel, bachelor pad, and the bed hasn't even been slept in. It just says everything about their relationship without any dialogue, and that's really the true power of cinema. Theater is the land of language, cinema is the territory of images. Because when it comes to movies, it's the use of images that engages the audience. Without dialogue, we're not being told what to think or how to interpret anything, so our minds are always active, and we're the ones creating the story. We're the ones interpreting the images. It really works well. So it's only like a 30 or 40 second little scene right there, but it just says everything. And Alfred knows exactly where to go. Boom, he's at the underground base. And here's one of the many visual money shots of the film where we have their new base of operations. Now, it is kind of a rule of sequel development where you have to one-up everything that's in the original. Now, in the original, you had that kind of underground little spot at Wayne Tower where Lucius creates all of his new technology and Batman tries it out. It was fine in the first one, but for the second one, it's just a rule. You need to have a new set so it engages the viewers in a fresh way. Maybe not the most practical thing in terms of the logic of the universe, but it looks great. Just that whole ceiling of lights is amazing. I love how short the space is. It almost feels like there's just enough room for them to stand in there and drive the car around in. This is also an important window character scene, a confession cam moment for Bruce and Alfred. Now, Alfred is his confession cam character. So again, after the main character is fighting with anyone or going through any kind of strife, and he's struggling in a film, it challenges them emotionally. It really brings out who they are. They're forced to fight. They're forced to go into the core of their character and say, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with this situation. And if the situation brings up some issues and challenges them, they're going to talk to their confession cam or window reflection character. And that's the case here, where Alfred's going to bring up these themes, these ideas of, hey, you can't be the hero all the time. It's taking a toll on you. You need a break. And Bruce says Batman doesn't need a break and he can't take it. Batman's beyond human. And Alfred argues, well, you are human. It's in these moments where the films begin to have heart. They begin to have theme. Because if you take them out, all you have are characters just running around, fighting with each other, arguing with each other, and we never know what kind of emotional toll it takes on anyone. So you need to have these moments. And this is the first one where it establishes verbally and visually what Bruce is going through. There's another great visual here where Bruce takes off his shirt, and there's all these scars, and he's black and blue, again kind of going back to the colors of this film with blue and black. And you just get this sense that Bruce is just fighting every night and just trying to clean up this town, and it's really tiring him out. And what's the next scene that happens? We go to our introduction of Harvey Dent, the person who might be able to take Bruce out of this life, who might be his savior. The name used here for Harvey Dent is the White Knight, so it's a perfect yin-yang balance to Bruce Wayne's The Dark Knight. Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent are really just two sides of the same coin. Bruce does everything illegally, and Harvey does everything by the book. He's kind of this idealized hero. And here is always the filmmaker's challenge. How do I introduce a new character in an interesting way that grips the audience? This courtroom scene does just that, where as he's examining the witness, he gets a gun pulled on him, and luckily it doesn't go off. So in terms of Harvey Dent's luck, the coin flipped in his favor on this one. This scene also sets in motion an opponent. We have the Joker set in motion earlier, so here it's Salvatore Maroni set in motion as the head of the Falcone crime family. I just want to take a moment to talk about this term setting in motion. This is something that takes place in the Act 1 of any movie, where you basically want to line up all your horses for a race at the starting gate. And every scene where we're cutting to the introduction of them, we're basically setting them off. The race is beginning for them. So here we've set in motion Harvey Dent. We get a sense of who he is, what he wants. We get a sense of Salvatore Maroni in terms of him being the head of the family now. And he's going to be a consistent opponent throughout the film. Earlier we had the Joker set in motion. We had Batman set in motion. We had the Vigilantes set in motion. The wannabe Batmen. So you have all these elements now officially starting to race. So when we're cutting between these different scenes, pay attention to how a scene ends with the promise of continuation the next time we cut back. In the best movies, every time a scene cuts away from a certain struggle or characters, it leaves on sort of a mini cliffhanger so that you want to find out what happened to those characters in the next scene or the next time they cut back. This scene is a really great example of that. Pay attention to, by the end of the scene, what's been created between the two characters, and what have they set in motion that's going to continue in a future scene. As they struggle here, at the end they're going to discuss warrants and seizing money from the banks, or going after something in the banks. Gordon won't tell Dent exactly what he wants with the banks. So that's where the scene leaves us with, and we know we're cutting to a future scene where Gordon is leading everyone charging into these banks, hopefully to get the mob money. I really like the decision making here in the writing for this scene. These are two really great characters, and we the audience like both of them. But the best thing about this moment is that these characters don't necessarily like each other. And that's what drama's all about. A movie is really boring if everyone agrees. So even between two good-hearted characters, there should be some sort of tension. And here the tension's created because these characters have a history. Which is another good move here in terms of the writing of this film, where these characters come into the scene, and we don't need all this exposition and backstory right off the bat in terms of how they know each other and what their history is. It comes out as they verbally battle with each other. And the reason they're battling here is because they each want something, which is a key ingredient in all dramatic scenes. In a two-person scene like this, it's character number one versus character number two. They each want something. It could be the same thing, it could be different things that are kind of linked with each other. They're fighting each other with words, using subtext to get at each other and to get what they want. So here Gordon wants the warrants, and Dent wants to be in the loop on the information of what Gordon's doing. But Gordon doesn't totally trust him because, as we learn, Dent built his reputation on investigating crooked cops. So it's a great character building moment or establishing moment for Dent, where now we know he's not afraid to even go against the good guys or the would-be good guys, and especially in that situation, to make enemies. One opportunity that this scene just missed is a little windowing or confession cam moment for Harvey Dent. That scene was back-to-back with the courtroom moment where we had Dent in action, showing that he's brave and courageous, and if he does have fear, he doesn't really show it. It would have been the perfect opportunity for the audience to start bonding with him emotionally, for us to get a little glimpse of how exactly these things make him feel. Now, I don't think that Gordon is really the window character, the confession cam character for Harvey Dent. It's probably Rachel Dawes. So while after the courtroom scene there was this kind of mini moment, this mini scene, very quick, where Rachel was walking with him and they kind of joked about it, it really would have worked a little bit better if it would have been taken a little more seriously and Dent could have revealed something about himself to us. Because right now he's basically a heroic white knight Batman-y kind of figure. He seems indestructible even at this point. So then it cuts to 2 quick scenes at Wayne Enterprises. Now let's just talk quickly about the design. The look of Wayne Enterprises is different. There was actually Wayne Tower in Batman Begins, and it had the train that led right into it, and it looked cool right in the middle of the city. Here the scale looks different, and it just really feels like we're in a whole new city. I like that they're trying something new, but I kind of wish they tried to have a little more continuity. At least give us an establishing shot where it's still in the same location. Here we're just cutting into the room, so we never see where it is, but you can just feel it's different than the boardroom that was in Batman Begins. The dinner scene is just starting, but let's finish up some thoughts on the previous 2 scenes. The first one with Lucius and that employee who's really nosy, that's really important. It sets in motion a lot of elements that are going to come into play later. But more importantly, it's really a great example of how just a minor character can become very memorable and just stick out in this huge story. The reason he's memorable is because he has a strong point of view and a strong objective. He really comes across as kind of this sort of desperate employee who wants to get a raise, who wants a promotion, and he's really trying to prove to Lucius that he's worthy of that kind of responsibility. It reinforces the idea that every person in a movie thinks they're the main character. They think it's their movies. Now take that idea and apply it to the next scene with Lucius and Bruce. In it, Lucius doesn't seem to have an objective. Of course, it's Morgan Freeman, and he's pretty much playing Lucius the same way that he was in Batman Begins. There hasn't been a level of growth. We know he's in charge of Wayne Enterprises, but what does he want in this movie? What does he want now? In that scene, he's not really fighting to get anything. Bruce just comes in and he says, "Hey, I need the suit readjusted because I want to be able to fight off dogs and turn around when I'm backing the Batmobile out of the garage." Because of this lack of objective, Lucius feels like a character that's just in suspended animation. He's waiting for Bruce to show up and tell him what kind of gadget he needs invented next. This is called The Dark Knight, so that means it should go to some really nasty places, and that means that people who are normally friends or get along with each other start to butt heads here a little bit, not because they're just doing it for drama's sake, but because philosophically they're not in agreement anymore. Batman Begins, everyone agreed that Bruce had to do this, that the city needed some cleaning up and help, but now he's been doing it for too long, and the escalation has gotten to such a point that it's dangerous for everybody involved. Alfred should be arguing with Bruce every time they're in a scene that Bruce needs to stop being Batman. Instead, he's just serving him tea and crumpets. I really wanted to deliver that last line with like a British accent, but I can't get anywhere close to it. Scottish Braveheart, maybe I can do, but not that. So all characters should want something in every scene from each other, no matter who they are. Everyone has their own objectives, their own personal dreams and goals, and they should be pursuing them. Now, the scene with the famous pencil Joker trick is just about to start, so I'm not going to talk too much about the scene that I just talked over, which was the dinner between everyone. But that dinner scene, just quickly to throw an idea out there, it's really important because it talks about philosophy and ideas. The characters don't spill their guts to each other, and they don't reveal their emotions and secrets and all that. What it really does, it centers the theme and the moral of the movie. What does it take to be a hero? The lines between legally pursuing that and illegally pursuing that. The idea of being a vigilante. Does it work? Does it create more problems than it solves? All that is really important. Nowadays in movies, that scene would be cut out because it slows down the movie and it makes it boring. Look at Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk. Neither of those films had a scene that was close to that. And because those movies are missing that type of moment, they feel more like popcorn movies than film, than epic journeys that deal with real characters. Nowadays, studios and producers will say that a scene like that is too smart for the audience. You gotta keep it at like a 5th grade level. Just keep it simple, keep the explosions going, don't give us big ideas. If you want to think about things, take a philosophy class or go to school. But this is exactly why The Dark Knight is such a big hit, because it does tell its story on these multiple levels. It's not afraid to go there. Iron Man is great entertainment, and the Incredible Hulk does the job if you just want to see Hulk smash. But that's the thing, it's Hulk smash, not Hulk think. And as a result, neither does the audience, and we only engage the movie on one kind of level. Think back to Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or The Matrix. Some of the most memorable moments are when the main character's talking about their perspective on the world and talking with someone with a little bit of wisdom, whether it's Luke with Obi-Wan, or Luke with Yoda, or Neo and Morpheus, or Frodo and Gandalf. So we bond with the characters to the level that they reveal reveal themselves to us, whether it's a traumatic memory or just their basic philosophy. The more we understand them, the closer we feel to them, and the more we root for them or root against them. Let's get back to the moment of the scene here. Maybe the greatest introduction of a villain ever, the Joker pencil trick. This scene's been going on for a couple minutes here, and it continues what was set in motion with the Gordon and Dent scene, where Gordon needed the permission to go into the bank. So we see that he went into the banks and the money's been taken out by the guy on the TV. So again, whenever you're setting anything in motion in Act 1, the horses are off to the race. Now we have to keep them in motion and keep track of them. And when you're telling a big story like this, you have all this parallel cutting. You cut from Bruce and Alfred, and then you cut away to the Joker doing his thing, and then you cut away to Dent doing his thing. So you keep track of all the horses, of all the story elements that you've set in motion. This is our first opportunity to get an idea of what the Joker wants. In the bank scene, he really didn't say anything. It was all action, it was very engaging, and he had this great reveal where he pulled off the mask, so we know he's in the movie. But now we get a little sense of, but now's our chance to start understanding him. This scene also explains the point of view of all the mobsters. It uses backstory in the present moment as a weapon instead of making it just exposition. Exposition would have just been if they just sat around and talked about what happened in the last year. And more importantly, if they weren't using that information to fight for something with each other. Dialogue is a way that characters fight with each other for what they want. So backstory and information can either become dialogue, where it's used in the present moment as a way to get something from someone. Backstory and information becomes exposition when it's not used in that way, when it's just like firing blanks. So on the first level, we understand where the mobsters are coming from. On the second level, we understand where the Joker's coming from. And on the third level, the scene sets in motion this idea that this guy in Tokyo has all of their money. He's the one who took it to protect it, and now Batman's going to have to go over there in order to get it. We don't know that he's going to do that, but that's the step that's going to be taken. Let's talk about acting for a moment in terms of this mobster that really doesn't like the Joker. Now in a second he's just going to explode and say, enough, I've had it with this clown. And it's great because you've seen this slow boil happening and now it's just exploded. Ideally in every scene, each character should have their own personal reaction, unique reaction to what's going on within the scene, even if the camera's not focusing on them. And I like how it's not clearly explained why he's so annoyed with the Joker. I mean, there's a room full of other mobsters and they're fine with it. They're willing to hear the deal. So we, the audience, now have to kind of do our work and say, well, why is this guy getting so pissed? And it's probably because he's used to being in charge of these meetings, or he's like one of the big dogs here, and now he's getting upstaged by someone. It's interesting to see that character's unique reaction to that situation. And you gotta love how the Joker gets himself out of this scene, where he's come prepared, willing to blow himself up if anything got out of hand. It's just a great example of, without words and through action and visuals, how we come to understand the character. And let's return to this idea of setting things in motion. What are we exactly setting in motion? Well, we're basically setting things up and paying things off. All of screenwriting, all of movie making is a scene-by-scene process of setup and payoff. And these are basically the cliffhangers that are established in one scene in one moment and are paid off later on. And once they're paid off, a new setup has to occur to keep this momentum going that makes us want to watch, to keep this scene-to-scene cliffhanging going so that we're compelled to find out what's going to happen next. So with that in mind, here this scene with Gordon, Dent, and Batman, the first time all three of them are together, so it's a really great moment. Love the camera movement here, which is continuously circling them, along with the score. There's like this kind of bass of the heartbeat sort of just continuously murmuring in the back. It's creating a little bit of tension in us, the audience, making us inch forward more towards the edge of our seats. And this scene is also a payoff from the earlier dramatic moment with Gordon and Dent, where they were arguing about going after the banks and all this kind of stuff. Here we have the fallout now from what happened. Gordon went, it didn't work. Now Dent and Gordon really go at each other. It's just part two of that earlier scene where they were a little more civil, but there was more subtext. They were kind of jabbing at each other below the surface. Now they just kind of all let it out, where Dent really explodes and gets angry. So scenes usually come in on payoffs because they're ending on setup. So they're ending on cliffhangers and they're coming in on the resolution of those cliffhangers. So the setup at the end of that scene is that Batman is going to go after the money in Tokyo. And of course, Batman creates the ultimate cliffhanger. He just disappears. I really wish he would just like pat them on the shoulder and be like, okay guys, see you around. But that would lose some of the cool factor. So the next scene here, we have a payoff from the earlier scene with Bruce and Lucius, where he requested a new batsuit be designed. So here they go into the basement area. Now again, this basement area, what's the purpose of having the new hideout if you have this area where Lucius is making all these cool things? But then again, I guess Bruce can't be going into Wayne Enterprises nonstop and hitting the button for the bottom floor. having his mini Batcave hideout thing with all the lights at least gives him a little bit of privacy. So while this scene pays off the Batsuit, it sets up the Skyhook, which will rescue him as he gets the guy on the TV from his Tokyo hideout. But again, Lucius here is basically just like Q from James Bond, just giving him these cool inventions and gadgets, but he's not adding anything of his own character. What does he want? And does he disagree with Bruce about some of the things he's doing? Could there be a little bit of struggle there? The next scene here is with Alfred, and he's almost like a Lucius character. Again, they're kind of doing the same things, where Alfred lays out the schematics here, or the plans to buy some parts for some sort of gadget. It would be great to give Alfred his own objective, and strengthen his point of view in this movie. Again, does he agree with what Bruce is doing, and what are the battles they have? Agreement is boring. Even if the characters are friends, you can still argue the best friends are the ones that force you to be sure about what you're doing. The music here is really picking up, and it's creating a sort of momentum in our attention within this sequence. We're really just kind of geared into, wow, things are going to start happening now. And let's just talk about the idea of a sequence. If you've listened to other movie nights, I've mentioned this a few times, but just a quick refresher is that a sequence in any movie is always from the point of view of the main character. A sequence is a series of scenes created from a main character's decision to go after an objective or an event that forces them to react to that objective. And in terms of story structure, an event is something that is out of the main character's control. It can be an act of nature like an earthquake or a lightning bolt, but most of the time in well-structured scripts, you don't want acts of God forcing the main character to react. You want opponents' action. You want them doing something to stop the main character from getting the goal. And good movies usually have a balance of the two, because if you have too much decision-making driving the story, that means the main character is too in control of everything. But on the other hand, if there's too many events going on, that means the main character is just reacting to everything and they're never taking any initiative. And by taking initiative and making decisions, that means that these events, these actions of the opponent, are changing them, are forcing them to go within themselves and think of some new way to get their objective. And these events and decisions on a sequence scale can be defined as beats. And basically these beats are changes in the way that the main character pursues objective. There are actually two types of beats. Beats within a scene, called scene beats, and on the bigger level, called story beats. So what I'm talking about now are the story beats. And we've just had our first story beat happen about 6 scenes ago, which was an event. The money was taken out of the banks. Now Batman has to go into action. Before it was Commissioner Gordon going after the money in the banks, but now that he's failed, Batman has to take some action. So that was the beat, the event, caused by an opponent, the mob, and their associate in Tokyo. And now Batman has an objective. Get this guy in Tokyo and bring him to justice so they can bring down the mob. So while that was the first beat, we just had our second beat a scene ago where Bruce jumps off the yacht and he gets on the plane because he's going to Tokyo. So now that's a decision beat. On his own, he's making the choice to go ahead and do this. The event beat created a reaction where he had the meeting with Gordon and Dent, and he went to Lucius to get the suit and come up with the plan and get out of Tokyo and all that. But now it's the next step. It's the decision. Boom. So we're in Tokyo. We have a start of a new sequence. This previous beat and sequence was 7 scenes long. Now that can vary depending on the way that the main character reacts to the event or the way that they pursue based on their decision. Some sequences are 4 scenes long, others are 10 scenes long. Each beat organically creates its own necessary amount of scenes, but in general there's going to be a rhythm to it. And the definition of a scene is a change in time or location. So here we have this moment with Lucius going to take this meeting with this guy at his Tokyo headquarters, and he drops his cell phone off, and that scene literally takes 15 seconds. That's one scene, boom. Now we have a change in time and a change in location. We're in this new scene where he's having the meeting with the guy. Now just as an example, if this meeting was going on very long and there was a dissolve and it's obvious that the meeting is in a new time frame, technically that's a new scene, even though we're in the same location. So location and time are what determine scenes. And just to identify the beat moments here, the event beat was when Gordon and his team went into the bank and there was no money. Boom, the event creates a sequence of scenes. The decision beat was Bruce jumping off of the yacht. So those are our 2 big beats right now, and we're in the middle of our second sequence. Think of a beat as a stone dropped in the water and the scenes as the ripple effect. Eventually those ripples only have so long of a life to go before you need the next stone to drop to create the next ripple effect. And very quickly, I just talked over the scene where the Joker got his revenge on that cocky mobster who was giving him attitude in the previous scene where the Joker offered the mobsters the deal. That's just, again, that's another payoff of that setup where there was the tension between them, and the mobster offered this $500,000 bounty if he was found dead and $1 million if someone brought the Joker in alive. So now we have the payoff. Boom, the Joker shows up, and he shows just how ruthless and crazy he is by now killing that mobster and taking over all of his minions. And there's, of course, the great moment, the line from the poster and the advertisements with, "Why so serious?" I'm not going to try to do an impersonation of the Joker because it would just be horrible. He did such an amazing job. But that scene was also important because it really served as a window character confession cam moment for the Joker. He doesn't have any friends, so he's not going to be talking to the same person all the time. And this moment really opened us up to the tortured, distorted, evil soul that lies beyond the makeup. I'm willing to bet if you take a moment like that out of the movie, we aren't as terrified of the Joker as we are by the end of the movie. All major characters in a movie need moments like that because we want to understand them. For Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent, we bond with them in terms of sympathizing and rooting for them. In terms of the Joker, we bond in a way that scares us. We really become just totally terrified by this anarchist, by this guy who is so unpredictable and doesn't care about human life and just wants to create chaos. Here we have a truly epic moment of the movie. Bruce is on top of this skyscraper and he's about to jump off, and just the music is going to just capture the mood, the moment, and just the majesty of it. I believe this was an IMAX moment of the movie. I didn't see it on IMAX in the theaters, but I'm pretty sure this is one of those IMAX-worthy sequences. Which is what this is here, a new beaten sequence. Bruce is making a new decision to go in as Batman and capture this guy. Now, the previous sequence, which started when he jumped off the yacht, carried through all the scenes where Lucius was acting on his behalf. Now, normally in a movie, you don't have someone else take over for the main character in terms of pursuing an objective, but here it made sense in the story that Bruce couldn't go and meet with this guy, so Lucius went in, dropped off the cell phone because it wouldn't be suspicious. That was basically a setup for the payoff, which is going to come in this sequence. There's also a very slight future setup here that's going to pay off towards the end of the movie when Bruce reveals this new invention, which is basically a sonar cell phone tracking of the entire city. And Lucius calls back to that scene where he explained to Bruce that the cell phone was operating on sonar just like a submarine would. And in case you're wondering, the sequence that just ended was 7 scenes long. So let's pay attention to how long this one is as we're watching it here. This is scene 1 here, the beat, the decision to go in as Batman. Scene number 2, he crashes through the window. And what can you say about this? This is just kick-ass Batman action. Now, we've had some cuts there. Now, that's not a change in scene. Technically, though, the guys are in another room, so on a screenplay you would write that they're in a separate room. So it could be scene number 3 right there. Scene we're outside of the office skyscraper here and the ambulances are pulling up. Now we're back into here, so technically not scene 5. Scene 5 is here with the SWAT team police officers coming in. Then we're back up to the room with Batman taking out these henchmen. Still technically not scene 6. We're just cutting back to the previous scene. And you gotta love just the sound of Batman's angry punches. He's just super powerful. And you can just feel the vigilante rage within him. You know, he just wants to get some justice done. So scene 6 is here as the SWAT team is moving in the elevator area. That would just be written as hallway. And now they come into the scene with Batman. So technically not a new scene. These guys have just entered an already existing scene. And just great here. Awesome visuals. The bomb blows up, and here we have the skyhook coming up. Now, outside of the skyscraper is a new scene. As the plane comes by for Operation Skyhook, this becomes scene 7. Batman hooks on, and he takes the money launderer with him. And this little scene here with the cargo plane kind of going over the ocean, technically that's another scene. So this beaten sequence lasts 8 scenes. The new beaten sequence begins here when the launderer is outside of the police station and Gordon sees the note that's attached to him. Now what's interesting is that usually in a beaten sequence, the main character should be the one continuously actively pursuing the objective. But here, Batman's given the launderer to the police and to lawyers so that they can pursue justice legally. One quick thing to mention about the sequence that we just watched where Batman went to Tokyo, that's just a great example of how the Christopher Nolan Batman vision is different from Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher, where all of those movies were shot on sound stages. You can never really get this feel of a truly epic adventure and a larger-than-life hero. Here, because everything is on location, it's just such a grand scale, and we can't underplay, and we have to give big-time credit to the music. The score just elevates it into this whole nother level. It's just so sweeping and powerful. You can just feel as if you're Batman spreading the cape, kind of floating over the city. So here's the scene where Rachel Dawes is trying to cut a deal with Lau, the accountant money launderer. And now we should probably talk about Maggie Gyllenhaal replacing Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes on this movie. Now I know pretty much the consensus is that everyone's happy Katie Holmes is gone, but I really gotta say that I think I like Katie Holmes' acting a little bit better. She sort of brought the character more to life. The character had a vitality. Yes, she was kind of annoying at times in Batman Begins, because she had this holier-than-thou attitude and was always kind of badgering Bruce on doing the right thing and doing the legal thing. But at least she had that strong point of view. She had that really passionate perspective on, hey, this is how the world should work, and maybe it doesn't, but I'm going to conduct myself in that manner, and you should too. That scene where Bruce reveals the gun in Batman Begins, that he was going to kill his parents' killer, and she slaps him. It's really a great scene. And she really brought a character to life. Here, Maggie Gyllenhaal sort of just has the character blend in. She doesn't really stand out. There's no perspective. There's no philosophy behind her. That passion from Batman Begins is gone, and she's kind of just lovey-dovey over Harvey Dent and sort of sad that Bruce hasn't quit the Batman thing yet, so they can't be together, so she's moving on. And she plays it very melancholy. And as a character, there's really no growth from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight. The character of Rachel Dawes is all about justice, doing things the right way. Very idealistic. So with The Dark Knight taking this harsher tone on reality and going into these not-so-nice places, it would be great to challenge her and her beliefs. Maybe she would be forced to do something just like Harvey Dent is later forced to turn to the dark side. Maybe she would take a similar path. Or she would stand strong and fight against it and be punished for it later by the Joker. The way it comes off right now is that Rachel Dawes is a victim instead of a crusader or a martyr, dying for her beliefs. That would have been more powerful, and that's the character that was established in Batman Begins. Here it's just gone, and it seems that the extent of who she is basically someone that Bruce Wayne wants but can't have, and as a result, she loses her sense of self. When talking about Katie Holmes versus Maggie Gyllenhaal, let's ask this one question. If, in 2005, when Batman Begins came out, Katie was not with Tom Cruise, and more importantly, if Tom Cruise had not jumped up and down on Oprah's couch, would her performance have been so scrutinized and disliked? I really believe that if you take all that Tom Cruise stuff away and the Scientology stuff away, and you look at her performance only in that movie, she does a great job. It's a good character and she brings it to life, and it was really missed here. Maggie Gyllenhaal, again, is a great actress, but here the character falls flat. And basically she's in this movie just waiting for the Joker to blow her up. And that final scene is probably the main reason why you could not have Katie Holmes return to this, because the perception of her is that she really stuck out like a sore thumb in Batman Begins, and she's linked up with Tom Cruise and he's crazy and all that Scientology stuff. So there's just such a negative perception of her that if she was in this movie and if she was the one in that room getting blown up, the audience would have been cheering instead of sitting there in shock and disbelief that the filmmakers actually took the story to this unbelievable, shocking, and courageous storytelling place. And in just a second, we are going to have a story beat right now. There we go. One of the vigilante wannabe Batmen hanging from the window. And this is a great example in terms of the flow of a beaten sequence and how it naturally comes to its end. This previous sequence that was started off with this decision of Batman to drop off the money launderer at the police station created all these following scenes, really dealing with Harvey and Rachel and Commissioner Gordon and how they're bringing everyone to justice. That sequence was 6 scenes long, and you can just feel that the energy the beat created is starting to run out. It's running its course, and we need that new story beat to energize the characters again and to set them into further action. With the previous beat being a character decision from Batman's point of view, we now have the opponent striking the Joker, and because of that, it's an event beat. It's out of the control of the main character, the Joker's the one responsible for it, and now it's going to create a series of scenes that result from that. It's a cause and effect of storytelling. This scene here is Bruce and Alfred watch the videotape of the Joker torturing this wannabe Batman vigilante. This is probably my favorite Joker moment of the movie. I just love how his voice changes and you get this sense of like this other personality hear this just pure evil emanating from him as he says, "Look at me." There it is. There's my Joker impersonation. Horrible. Razzie award worthy. But just when he switches his voice there, he's in control and the guy's not paying attention to him, and just the rage releases. It's so great. And that was the first time I remember in the theater, just a lot of people kind of leaned back in their chairs, and it was a little bit of a jolt. You didn't even see him. All you needed to do was just hear his voice, and it freaked you out. At this point on, the Joker kicks it in a high gear. And that's another thing to talk about right now. We're about 48 minutes into the movie, and the movie overall is about 2 hours and 40 minutes. This really could be considered the beginning of the second act. In traditional screenwriting, in traditional Hollywood big budget feature film release movie making, Act 2 is the struggle of a main character to achieve an objective and overcome an opponent. And usually, traditionally, it's the same opponent and the same objective for the entire film. Now what we've had here for the first 48 minutes is everyone is established, and then Batman is really going after the mob syndicate. He's going after the accountant, the guy who's laundering and holding the money for all the mobsters, and then he brings them to justice, so now Harvey Dent and Rachel can do things the right way. But that's not the objective for the entire movie. While Batman's overall objective and philosophy is just help whoever's in need or do the right thing in general, his specific objective from this point on becomes stop the Joker. And the Joker's objective is create chaos. So it's not directly in opposition to Batman's objective. It's not stop Batman. He actually doesn't want to stop Batman. He wants Batman to continue doing his thing. As he says later, he needs Batman. To compare it to a recent film, let's use Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's a great example of a movie where the main character has a single objective throughout the entire second act all the way to the end, with that goal being find the Crystal Skull. Now the opponents, the Russians in that film, have the same objective. They also want the Crystal Skull. That's a perfect example of both the main character and the opponent having the exact same objective, and only one of them can have it. Here we have Batman, his objective is stop the Joker, while the Joker's is just create chaos. Not necessarily the same objective, but mutually exclusive objectives, where if one person achieves theirs, the other can have what they want. This here is probably the most important thematic scene of the movie, where Bruce throws the party for Dent, the fundraiser, and is making this little speech here where he basically says that he now believes in Harvey Dent. The subtext here for Bruce and his emotional inner journey is that he's hoping Dent can take over in a legal way what he's been doing in the illegal way. That the Dark Knight can retire and the White Knight can take over and be a symbol for Gotham and a sign that things are turning around. He's been battling for a year now as Batman, making progress but also rocking the boat and making a lot of people angry. And with the recent arrest of all the mobsters, it seems the dawn is finally breaking through the night. But, as Harvey Dent says later, the night is darkest before the dawn, and the Joker represents that truly, truly dark point. And that's what this movie is about. It's really about that struggle where if you want change, you have to go through a lot of pain, and it's not going to be pleasant, but it is worth it in the end. The question becomes, do people have the courage, and are they willing to make the sacrifices for the greater good in the long term? This scene on the balcony is also very important for both Rachel and Bruce in terms of their inner journeys, because here Bruce basically spills his guts and he's saying that Harvey represents what I've been striving for all along. If he can just take over, I don't have to be Batman anymore. And then Rachel wants to believe him. She's still in love with him, but she knows that Bruce most likely won't be able to let go of Batman. And that's a great little twist, that being Batman has warped his personality just a little bit, and she's not sure if he can make that sacrifice because now he's come to totally identify with Batman. In a lot of ways, Dent is the person she wishes Bruce would have become. But then on the other hand, she realizes that Batman is very necessary in this world, the way it is at this moment. These themes and these inner emotions of the characters are also things that you set in motion in stories. These are also set up and paid off throughout the entire movie. Or at least they should be. All good storytelling works on these two levels, where you have sort of on the surface this objective, tangible, materialistic goal of achieving things, but then you have this invisible, interpersonal goal, emotional goal of either changing or growing or adapting, whatever it may be. And in films where both of these things occur, the audience is really satisfied because we really connect with the people and we go through what they go through because we're feeling along with them. Now back to the story structure level, technically we're still in that sequence created by the beat of that wannabe Batman vigilante dead hanging from the window. the Joker announced his presence, and he set in motion a plan to take all the major political, legal figures of Gotham out. And here we have all the scenes paying off those setups. We have Gordon with the commissioner, and he's about to have a little drink, which we know is going to kill him, and then the judge is going to start the car, and that's going to blow up. So the Joker's menace and his chaos is really starting to take effect on everybody. So technically, we'd still be part of that sequence that started with the dead hanging Batman. We're probably about 6 or 7 scenes into this sequence, and it's going to really culminate in a great way where Joker crashes the party. This sequence was really the moment for me in the theater when I just thought, holy shit, I don't know what's going to happen next in this movie. We're only about an hour into it, and already some major characters have been killed by the opponent. What else is going to happen? Like, you start to feel the fear for everyone, and that no character, no movie star's role is safe. And that's really exciting new filmmaking. We're so used to so many movies where, of course, any A-list stars are going to survive. They might get hurt a little bit, or they might be in danger, but we know it's going to be the cliche hero to the rescue at the end. Watching this movie for the first time, we might feel the same thing audiences did in 1960 when they were watching Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, and Janet Leigh dies halfway through the movie. That must have just been like the biggest shock. So here, you really start to feel that excitement, and you're really on the edge of your seat now because everything is wide open and anything is possible. So all the expectations and the cliches of gets pushed to the side, and now you're really engaged in this movie on a whole